I won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, pulling the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying, Adrian, defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, pulling the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a bus. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a bus. Oh, oh, oh,
Hi, this is Penn. Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller. Big guy does magic, smaller guy next to me, he does magic too. He doesn't talk that much. Anyway, I wanted to welcome you to In Time. Welcome you all to In Time with Nick. Love you all. Peace. Go get him, Nick.
Oh boy. Tom, do you know how to make a vodka tonic? Water tonic? Just give me the vodka bottle and no, it's gonna be a long show. It's gonna be a really long show. Is Andrew, please tell me you're here.
I am here.
Oh good. Company for the descent into hell. So we're talking about how we're going to do the show last night. And we said we'd have to do a show because Trump is going to issue, we believe, about 150 executive orders. And we thought a couple of them might be a little kooky. We didn't realize we'd start finding out what some of these executive orders were going to be before he was issuing. We also didn't count on Biden suddenly pulling a couple of quick stunts at the end. So we're like, let's go live around. What? What? Trump wants to colonize Mars? Excuse me? We might have to get into that.
Hey, at least Mars doesn't have a migrant crisis yet.
Hey, now Trump, he's picking the one spot that doesn't have a migrant. So Titan sends me a list of all the things Trump wants to do, and I look at the list, and it is so insane. Obviously, he's trolling me. So I said, is this a joke? His reply was good enough not to actually answer the rather direct questions. So I decided, well, obviously it's a joke, but why don't I look it up anyway? None of it was a joke. I don't even know where to begin. It looks like he plans on violating a large number of rather important constitutional amendments. Oh, and it looks like Brooks is joining us, so let me get Brooks in here. We'll put Brooks in on number 3 up there. It's just going to take me a second. Oh, it's just gonna, of course, it's gonna be right in the way of, this is utter insanity. And if we're gonna have insanity, there's nobody I would rather have insanity with than Brooks and his andering. Brooks, welcome. How are you?
How are you doing, my friends?
It's already been an interesting day. So, I guess we could talk about 2 things.
I recommend
Yes.
getting up and walking around a couple times today. I did a few hour live stream last night because I have a very different take on what the next 4 years are going to be like than I think a lot of people. But I think the important thing is to understand first, and it's the biggest, is that we are at a new trench in like American politics. It's completely, the reality is all the things we thought mattered don't. It's all done. It's all done. And the only way that we fix any of this is if we throw out all of the old playbooks. It's got to be gone because it doesn't matter anymore. It's time to change it up. And so it's important, I think, as we go into this, and it's going to be mine, get up, walk around, take a look around and go, hey, what do we got going on? What do I have? Because if you can really, I think, reconnect with your reality of your world before diving back into the absolute hilarity that today is going to be, and I mean that in all the words, then I think that's going to be the healthiest way to handle this.
I think you're
I
right.
would like to remind people
Yeah.
that the first rule of Zombieland is cardio.
That is
Bingo.
actually just perfect.
All right.
Do you want to, because has he, I don't think he's started yet, has he?
He hasn't, but we've got a few things. So what I'd like to do, Dick Dawson sent me a message. I just want to say thank you. I don't have time to type that out, but corrected that. So I appreciate it. Let's see. Blonde Bombsheller sent me a message. Let me just quickly read what that is. Nick, have a good show. For God's sake, please don't tell anyone it's my birthday today. Oh.
That seems like they tricked you.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Blonde Bombsheller. Thank you so much for, thank you very much for your support.
Birthday on.
Yeah, I know.
Every 4 years you get to
Congratulations.
celebrate your birthday with a new administration.
Yeah. So, all right, here's what we're going to do, I think. Let's discuss. So Biden did a number of preemptive pardons. I want to say this first. I think it merits discussion, but it's not the headline of the day. He preemptively pardoned his entire family. He preemptively pardoned Fauci. I think there are a couple of other preemptive pardons. In these pardons, one of the things that he said, and I'd like to get the wording right,
Wait. You are not fucking with me. I've got to look this up. God damn it. This is what happens when like you take time away to like enjoy real life.
Yeah,
he pre-pardoned Fauci, which is, yes. I mean, I get it. But that, like, if you want to just feed every conspiracy theorist just like manna from heaven.
Also, Mark Miley, retired General Mark Miley, members and staffers of the January, Millie, thank you, of the January 6th committee, police officers who testified before the January 6th committee. Let's see. I believe in the rule of law, and I'm optimistic in the strength of our legal institutions that they will ultimately prevail over politics, but these are exceptional circumstances, and I cannot in good conscience do nothing. The issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt or for any offense. Our nation owes
these public... Peltier.
Sorry, it's a long list.
Oh my God! No, this is a thing. I did protests about this. This is a thing I've been dealing with for 20 plus years. This is like, that's a big fucking deal. Sorry, we'll get to that. I apologize for being excited about something.
No, I remember a long time ago. You and I had that discussion. I had forgotten about that. So, our nation owes these servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. So, while the president has acted to protect these individuals, it remains unclear, at least for now, whether the people will accept these pardons. What's his name? I forget. The head Republican. What's his name? I've forgotten his name, but he said he won't accept a pardon because he's done nothing wrong. So that's all big news, and it is going to the bottom of the stack today. Trump has not yet begun any of his. Again, we anticipate 150 executive orders. However, the New York Times has released. Oh, and Lance is joining us, so we can hear him, although he is not on the screen. Lance, how are you?
Hello.
Good to see you. So I will get you up on the screen in a minute. It has been a crazy day. So what I would like to do is discuss a number of orders that we know he's going to sign and what he has said in his inaugurational address. So let's talk about what the New York Times is saying is top on his list of things to sign today. 1, close the border to asylum-seeking migrants and end asylum birthright citizenship. This would violate the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which, of course, he cannot do, but he is signing an executive order doing it anyway. 2, bring the U.S. military into border security. This, we believe, would violate posse comitatus, also in the Constitution. 3, declare migrants crossing. Oh, and he's not allowed to. He's not allowed to if they're genuinely seeking asylum. He can't. He's not allowed to. Anyways, declare migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border to be a national emergency, which would allow him to unilaterally unlock federal funding for the border wall construction without approval from Congress. And he would designate drug cartels as
that'll be challenged immediately too. Like again, that'll be challenged immediately. Like, but again, none of this matters anymore.
Brooks, do you think it's safe to say that probably 100 of the 150 are going to be immediately challenged?
I actually am concerned that there are so many that there will be some that won't be. Like the reality is the legal world that actually does this stuff is actually a finite resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is insane. Federal workforce. He tends to end remote work policies and order agencies back to the 5-day work week in office so that you cannot work remotely anymore. in terms of gender diversity and equality, establish a biological sex definition for federal workers as part of the revised Title IX guidance to schools, remove protections for transgender people in federal prisons, remove protections for transgender migrants in U.S. custody. He plans to direct federal agencies to investigate trade practices, including trade deficits. You don't need to investigate trade deficits. A trade deficit is when, Jesus, we'll get into it. He is wants to get a special exemption that allows low-value goods to come into the United States tariff-free. However, he does want to create an external revenue service which would collect tariffs. An external revenue service to collect tariffs from other countries. We'll get into that one, I'm sure. Assess China's compliance with a trade deal Trump signed in 2020, as well as the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, and replace the North American Free Trade Agreement. Declare a national emergency, which would allow him to unlock special powers permitting pipelines and power plants to speed permitting. Wow, I have to slow down. Which would allow him to unlock powers to speed permitting for pipelines and power plants, order the federal government to roll back regulations that impede domestic energy production, signal his intention to loosen the limits on the tally pipe. I do need to slow down. Tally pipe? Did I just say that? Signal an intention to loosen the limits on tailpipe pollution and fuel economy standards, roll back energy-efficient regulations for dishwashers, shower heads, and gas stoves, open the Alaskan wilderness for more oil and gas drilling, eliminate environmental justice programs across the government, which were aimed at protecting poor communities from excess pollution, and of course, and perhaps most importantly, delay the ban on TikTok, giving them more time for a sale. Now, that's just what they learned prior to, Prior to, this is what they learned, I think it was last night, prior to the inauguration. During his inaugural address, he said that he, let's see. I need to get this right here. During his inaugural address, he said, oh, and of course I have lost it. Let me see if I can recapture this again. Where did this go? During his inaugural address, believe me, this will be worth the wait. Trump said that the United States would consider itself a growing nation under his presidency, and he vowed to bring the nation's flag into, quote, new and beautiful horizons. Trump went on to say that American astronauts would, quote, plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars, which drew an enthusiastic thumbs up from SpaceX CEO Elon Musk. He is also planning on, we believe, reinstating the military expelled for refusing the COVID vaccine, renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and a few other things that he put that's noteworthy in his inaugural address. Welcome, everyone. If I could buy you all around before starting, I would. This is in time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thoughts, anybody?
I think we can safely say this is a dark day for democracy.
Democracy has been dead for a long time.
Well, at least the semblance of it.
Yeah.
It went straight into autocracy.
If I can start with the one positive thing we did mention, I do want to mention Peltier. It's a big deal
Please.
to me. Leonard Peltier is effectively a political prisoner. He's called this by Amnesty International, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Southern Christian Council for Human Rights. It's an extraordinary number of people have gone over this case in the last, I don't know, for fucking ever. This guy has
48
been
years.
For fucking forever. Peltier has.
He was jailed on the year I was born in 1976. So
And he's been in and out of solitary confinement and treated, we'll just say, poorly, and I'll just kind of leave it there because the Peltier case is genuinely like horrifying on a major level. Convicted of killing FBI agents that paid like insane evidence used, shit hidden from the jury, lies told at the trial, and it's been a thing that like literally. Again, Amnesty International considers him an American political prisoner. And it's not just him, it's Jesse Jackson, the Robert F. Kennedy, Center for Human Rights. This has been a long-standing thing with protests, people fighting, and lots of promises. The last hope we had genuinely was Obama. I think since then, I'm not alone in just kind of assuming we're fucked. I know Michael Moore and a bunch of us lobbied a little bit, did email campaigns, I did phone calls during COVID to try to get him released because he caught COVID and he was very sick. He's old. There's no reason for a life sentence, but it didn't matter. They didn't care. So for Biden to let him go, Biden's a gigantic piece of shit, but I'm genuinely like flabbergasted that happened. Genuinely flabbergasted. It's a very good thing. It's just fucking wild. There's no other good news here, but I just wanted to just say that.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. And of course, the preemptive pardons. I mean, the problem with them is, of course, that and Trump probably would have done it anyway. He already pardoned members of his own family before Biden pardoned Hunter. So it looks like the status quo is now going to be on your last day, pardon all of your friends and buddies. It doesn't matter what they've done. The presidential powers to pardon, I think, are.
We're now at the place where political retribution is going to be seen through the justice system, and they know this, and that's why they're doing this. Like that again, if it wasn't a thing that was imminently real, and again, this is why like the Fauci thing, for example, the idea that Fauci could be like brought under charges is to me significantly silly, but the reality is we know this is what Trump has promised, and he's not made good on them before, but he tried. And this time around, I think he's going to have a lot less resistance. And we just now know this is where we're at. This is where we are.
On a just to try to get the try to find the funny in this before we dive into a couple of the other things that he has said. First of all, just looking at this picture, Melania Trump. That's not happiness to see me. She is like, I would kill this man if I could.
She is a cold-hearted cunt, and she always has been, and she always will be. She's a genuinely awful person, just like all of these people. But that's just the reality of her life. And so she looks who she is on the inside. It's one of the nice things about that much plastic surgery is eventually we get to see how ugly you are on the inside.
So the next one is somebody picked up on this. He didn't put his hand on the Bible. I wish that we could just sort of like let him go 4 years and then find a clause that says if your hand actually wasn't on the Bible, you weren't president, and then we just roll back everything he did.
I'm sure it wasn't a normal Bible, right?
What was it?
1 sec. I want to find the link. Trump has a limited edition Bible.
Oh, of course he does.
And so he used his Bible in his inauguration, apparently.
So he could have gone for like the I think you can get Abraham Lincoln. You can get the Lincoln Bible. You can get any number of Bibles, and he chose okay. Now
it's the God Bless the USA Bible, to be specific.
Oh God.
Well, apparently he had both the Lincoln Bible and his Bible.
Yeah. I
Our
hate this. I hate this so much.
new Secretary of State. I'm just going to put it up. If you guys can't read it, let me know. I will read it for you. This is our new Secretary of State. To be fair, she said this. I think it was 4 years ago, so she didn't just say this yesterday. But she is our new Secretary of State, Monica Crowley. So this is her. She is taking a picture of her at the Berlin Wall, saying, "See walls work."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was back in 2015, not 2020.
Okay. So this was 10 years ago. So, I mean, yes, if you put landmines, barbed wire, machine gun nests, and everything else around the wall, I mean, you'll notice this wall isn't very high, but it doesn't really need to be because there were landmines around it. Now, maybe she's planning on mining the border with Mexico. I don't know. But
building up East Germany as your positive image is really a brilliant thing.
Well, and the fact that it didn't stop everyone.
It still
Even
didn't
with all
stop.
that,
Yeah.
it still didn't stop everyone.
Oh my God. So let me do super chats. We've got a number which I really appreciate. Thank you guys so much. We got a $20 super chat from Dunk on You. Keep doing good things. We will always do our best. Thank you so much, Dunk on You. We really appreciate it. Johnny Nedregard, 22 Swedish kroner. Hello, community. Welcome to the New World Disorder. Yeah, tell me about it. Dunk on You gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Dunk on You. And another $20 super chat. Dunk on You, very generous. We really, really do appreciate this. Thank you so much. Mass Tequila. Yeah. Except it's going to be on a tariff now, so it's going to be a lot more expensive. But we'll get Mexico to pay for it, I'm sure.
Because, they've paid for everything so far.
Yeah, it's worked out well. All right, so let's. What I figured,
just real quick, because it's been hard to follow. Crowley is now the Secretary of State, because I know he brought her in to be like the, I thought, Assistant Secretary of State, but
well, let's look it up. I could be wrong. I thought it was Secretary of State, but
no. I mean, this could have happened this quickly. Like it's entirely possible. They went through 6 Secretaries of State since then, so. And again, it's like I was commenting last night. There's no truth anymore, so we need to kind of not care anymore. Like it doesn't matter. Almost none of it matters.
Hold on. I mean, the other thing is when you take a look at they're not okay. I think Secretary of State is Rubio, so she must be Assistant Secretary of State. So yeah. Rubio probably is
chief of protocol. I think is the term for it.
Rubio is probably less inclined to mine the border with Mexico, but I could be wrong.
Oh no. Cubans hate Mexicans.
Oh,
of his generation especially. Very
all
much.
Right. So mines for everyone. All right, so he's probably in the process of we had figured we were going to start our show at 2 because we figured that's probably when it start the process of signing his, again, we anticipate about 150 executive orders. The ones that we know, let's start with immigration and border, close the border to asylum-seeking migrants and asylum and birthright citizenship. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, which part? Like, I think both of these almost deserve an entire discussion.
There's about 40 things right now that deserve an entire discussion on their own.
Yeah, listen, the one I want to talk about is Mars. He said in his inaugural speech that we will plant a flag, the U.S. Stars and Stripes, on Mars. This is not a misquote.
Interested in that. Like that stuff is the same as like buying Greenland or any of this other garbage that is just filling the world with shit and garbage. Because the reality is a trip to Mars is a silly, stupid idea that only really, really dumb people care about. And it's just not a thing that will necessarily happen. What will happen, and the reason it's there, is simply to funnel more money to Musk, whose companies survive only ever on the money of the government. So he has nothing. Elon Musk doesn't know how to run a company without money from the government. And so that's all Elon Musk is doing. And that's what this is. It's the way that Trump basically was put into power by Twitter being wholly weaponized as a conservative, anti-democratic sort of neutralizing machine. Musk is getting repaid by that with this, which will then funnel money to him, which he'll then funnel money into Tesla, and he'll funnel money into his own pockets. That's what he does. He's very good at it. I find it. We're not going to end up on Mars. There's a wonderful I'll find the literal name of the channel, but there's a skeptic channel. Let me find it. I should fucking know it off the top of my head, but it's been a long 24 or 48 hours. One sec.
While you look for that. Oh, you got it?
Yeah, Common Sense Skeptic has a phenomenal series of videos, not just on how Elon Musk lies all the time. Like he's just a debunking machine for Musk, which is hilarious, but very specifically on why Mars is not only nonsensical, but why it won't happen and how we aren't even close to what we need to be to get there. So it's all just a big Ponzi scheme at this point. Like, again, that's what they're doing.
We also have a request from Titan to refer to these as royal edicts, which if the court system, goes down, it's not far from that if we can't. So, going to well, let's just talk about immigration then entirely. So he wants to bring in U.S. troops. He wants to declare an emergency so that he can unilaterally unlock funding for the border wall, and he wants to designate drug cartels as global terrorists. So he signs those today. What happened?
Well, again, there's like 9 things in that are each worth themselves. It's kind of hard to even parse what the actual material implications of this are for anyone. The birthright citizenship thing, he has said, is going to be retroactive, which I don't even know how the fuck that's even a thing. So,
right.
Like, if it's a thing that he's able to make it retroactive, or that he does that being retroactive changes the nature of the laws in the entirety of the United States forever. And that is its own thing, let alone the birthright citizenship thing being in the Constitution hardened particularly for specific reasons, because racist assholes didn't want black people to have citizenship. And this was the easiest way to just go, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Because that's fine. Not every country does it. We should be better than other countries. That's fine. But he doesn't care. So again, each of these things, even one thing broken apart is like 6 things. It's fucked up.
Lance, any thoughts?
I think that a lot of what's going on with this set of edicts is that he's going to use that essentially as a distraction. Yeah, they'll try to push everything forward, but people will be focused on the absurdity of some of these things rather than paying attention to the real stuff that's going on behind the scenes, where he's stealing the U.S. Treasury blind for personal purposes.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lance has the number. I would even say it's even more insidious, where if you throw 1,000 laws at the wall and everyone gets angry about the biggest, most insane ones, then the ones that are less insane ostensibly survive the public fervor as well. Yeah. And so you have this really awful thing where it's like, we're going to end birthright citizenship and retroactively do it, and everyone's going to get really angry. But then it's going to, the anti-refugee thing, which again, illegal, but people are going to be like, well, I saw the videos of all those, Haitians. Yeah. And that's it. Now we've got no refugees in the country anymore, which is like, what the fuck is going on? It's going to be shit like that. the death penalty for foreign nationals, which is a thing. We've done this. There are 100 fucking people on death row that are foreign nationals. It's condemned by Amnesty International. It violates international law. There's a whole bunch of problems with it. Trump doesn't give a fuck about any of that. Neither do people. Death penalty is not a hot button issue anymore, especially for what a lot of these people have done. So that's going to get through and no one's going to say anything, but there's wording in it that's probably going to be terrifying, but everyone's going to, like, it's flooding the zone with shit is literally the strategy, and they're going to do it across the board.
And once you get your foot in the door with one of those, you can use that as leverage to make other things happen. So you've already established the precedent. Well, you let us do this, therefore, because by extension,
if the law already doesn't apply to what we're doing, why apply it now?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, dear Lord.
Absolutely.
The whole thing of retroactively applying a law. You could go
I've got
back
huge
and say,
problems
okay,
with
we're
that.
going to retroactively apply this law and this law and this law. And then you can just start essentially doing whatever you want because that law doesn't apply to protect you anymore. We can entirely eliminate political opposition if we wish.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I had such a huge problem when California did this exact same thing, made a law retroactive. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're now like criminalizing people for something that they did that was completely legal when they did it. I also agree that I think that the strategy here is to completely overwhelm the ability for people to try and object to everything that he's doing, because people will have to try and pick their battles. You can't spread things that thinly and expect to succeed everywhere. So yeah, interesting tactic.
Well, and if you ended birthright citizenship, unless I'm missing something, that would mean all of us would no longer be American, and then he could decide.
No. Sorry, dude. No,
okay.
We're white.
Well, that's kind of, yeah, that was sort of where I was going with it, which is it gives you a lot more freedom to say, well, tell you what, we're just going to say, instead of birthright citizenship, Americans are people who are X, Y, and Z, and then everybody else falls into the immigration laws that he's already planning, which basically, presumably he's going to drop however much money into deporting 14 million illegals or what.
There's a lot of little issues in here, which are things that are like, how this is written is going to be really fucky in a lot of ways. It's the same question I ask everybody when they start going like, I don't want any immigration, close the board. It's like, okay, what about tourists? Like, do you want people to still visit this country? And the answer is resoundingly, of course. It's like, how do you tell the difference? Like, it's this really silly basic thing. But when you have this, anyone who doesn't have legal status here isn't allowed anymore. What the fuck does that actually mean? Because, like, is a visa legal status? Then everyone is technically legal here until they're not. But you can't close because a visa's gotten at the border. How the fuck? Like, this shit doesn't make sense on its face, is the thing. And that's the part that's really fucking fascinating to me. Like, how that's going to even turn out.
Am I right? Is that 80% of undocumented workers or quote illegals are people who came in on a legal visa but overstayed it?
Overstaying visas, how everyone does this. Australia has entire forces that are about going and finding people who've overstayed their visas. This is just normal. It's an expat thing. It's very often when I was in it, and you get around it. When I was working in the UAE, I was on a non-work visa. I was on a visitor visa. They don't care. No one cares. But it's 90 days. As soon as you hit that 90 days, you had to go fly to Qatar for a day and fly back. 90 days. There you go. You start again. And that kind of process is not abnormal for people who are on these visas. And it's something that happens everywhere. But again, did I have legal status? Yes, technically. But I didn't when I first got in the country. Well, how does that work? Do we grant, like, what the fuck does it mean to stop anyone entering who doesn't have legal status? Because if it's just, well, we'll give them visas, then they get in anyway. So what are we doing? What is happening here?
Anybody else have a comment before we go on to
Trump doesn't care about the minutia of things. It's like, and when arguing, especially when it comes to policies, whether it's domestic or international policies, it's like things are never as simple as you think they are. There's so many tangential things associated with it, and Trump doesn't care any about that. He just cares about the broad overlay. Hey, this sounds good, it plays well, we're going to do this, not realizing, or actually just probably not even caring that it's like it's way more complicated than just doing X, because X also affects the entire rest of the alphabet twice over. So he doesn't care about that. He's just saying, oh, we're just going to do it. And when we start seeing some of the unintended consequences of things that he does manage to get through and do, where I said I think it's they're trying to overwhelm the entire system. It's like our system already moves slow. If you can overwhelm it, you're going to be able to do a lot of things that you want to do just by grinding the entire process to a stop. So I kind of think that he doesn't give a shit about, and most of the people who are proponents of this don't really care about the details of how would you even do this, or does this even actually make sense? It's like on the one hand, I'm like, hey, yeah, I kind of agree. You shouldn't have large groups of unvetted migrants flooding across the border. On the other hand, that's not the biggest problem with illegal immigration into the United States. Visa overstays are, and it's like that everywhere in the world. So,
because we want people to visit, because visiting is good. Money is good. We like tourists. The U.S. does a fuck ton of money with tourists. And by the way, how it works is both ways. Like the vast majority of countries in the world, the U.S. is very lucky. We have a lot of very good deals when it comes to, if you don't know, every country isn't the same. American citizens get treated super well when you go to any other country. Mostly you just can show up. There's very few countries in the world that you can't just kind of show up to. China, you even can now if it's for a very quick stay. I got a 10-year visa. That was a process. But even then, it's not that. It's not even a wild deal. And that's because we have that general rule reciprocally. That's how it works. Like we get to go to the EU. It's not a big deal. They get to come to us. It's not a big deal. But the moment we change any of those things, it fucks all of it up. It just completely starts breaking down those systems, and business relies on those. Business relies on that visa program flatly. So, yay!
It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah, we were.
Somebody in the chat pointed something else out. Foreign students coming in on student visas. A lot of universities depend heavily on foreign student monies and fees. Take that out of the equation and what happens?
So let's see. Yeah. Sorry, please.
I mean, take a lot of things out of whatever equation. It's in all of this shit breaks down the moment that there's any detail put to it, which again is why I do think we're talking about flooding the zone. The literally Steve Bannon's plan from the beginning, Trump's plan, they've talked about this. The people around him who are still there talk about this. Flooding the zone is the goal. And the imagery they're using this time around is decidedly Nazi fascist. They're very much going and playing into this hyper-fascist America first, but in that way that's like a little more evil. Like that's why I make the comment about Melania. If you haven't seen Trump's official inauguration photo, it's like the gates of hell have opened beneath him. It's how you light monsters in movies. It's how you light monsters in movies. And so, and he knows this, and this is the goal. It's upward lighting. It's this very particular stuff. And the whole thing is because this is the plan they're going with. And they're doing it because the goal is flatly to dismantle the entirety of the social safety net we've developed in this country and privatize it so that way business can make profit off of it. That's it. Marx said this is the last step. Like Marx was very clear about this, and they're saying they're going to do it. So here you go. Postal service will be privatized. Public education will go away. It'll be returned to the states, which means it'll move into a completely bond private-based system where we have vouchers and you can go wherever you want privately, but schools don't have to take kids anymore, which means most kids don't get an education. Happy days for that. Like, it's going to be this kind of shit everywhere.
Lance, does that sound?
Well, I think we can expect, road systems to go privatized. Tolls to drive on roads, because obviously it's a waste of state money and what causes your taxes to be high to fill in the potholes. So we'll let some private company do that. Yeah, they'll fill in the potholes. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to go. I'm a little late to start my own stream because I'm going to be basically, as these things pop, I'm actually going to be doing it one at a time, like breakdown of what they mean and going into how they're written, because we're there. Like, this is the day where these are going to start happening. So I'll annoy you. I know you're going to be going for a while too today.
Yeah. We plan on going as they start popping off. We don't know if he started signing them yet or not, but I expect it any minute.
Not. He will. I'm on the White House's site and hitting refresh constantly. So
I assume as he signs each one, it's gonna yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming by. Thank you so much. Extremely insightful as always. So, thank you very much for that. And
happy to be here, and we will chat soon. And best of luck surviving it.
Thank you.
But remember, the big deal now is that we find new weapons, because all the old ones are dead. All of them. We've got to do something new. It's got to be new. That's it.
Would you do me a favor and send me a link to your stream so that I can drop it in the live chat?
I will.
Whenever. You don't have to do it right away, but as soon as you do, I'll drop it in the live chat so people know where they can find you and that you'll be doing.
And I sent you guys in this chat. I sent you the Common Sense Skeptic video on Mars. It is worth a watch, and enjoy the entire channel. I think you'd actually really love it on a drive. The guy's voice is great for that kind of long drive. It's got a very textbook quality.
Oh, sweet. I'm always looking for more stuff to listen to when I'm driving.
Yeah, and
my actual my Audible subscription, because they give you an end of the year summary of all the stuff, and I've been watching it, and I've been moving more and more towards like podcasts and things, and so I watch my official numbers on Audible go down, and I'm sad, but at the same time I'm like, I actually think I'm probably getting a little bit better information and more useful information than listening to Brandon Sanderson for 58 hours on his latest book. And
what's it called again? Skeptic.
Common Sense Skeptic.
Oh, Common Sense Skeptic. So I'm going to drop that in the live chat right now, too, for people who are interested.
Much more important and much better than me. The guy's work is pretty good.
And he basically takes down, he does a breakdown of where Elon Musk is like making shit up and
you'll see. He just demolishes shit.
All right. Well, so Common Sense Skeptic, and that is now in the live chat. You know what I'm going to do too?
All of you enjoy, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. See you in a bit. All right. So yeah. Oh, of course I hid Lance instead of there we go. There we go. One of these days I'll get these buttons right. So I dropped that in the live chat. I'm also actually going to put it in the description so that people who aren't, because it sounds like it's a really good program. It sounds like it's worthwhile. So let me just update the description right now and get that in there. And there we go. So thank you once again, Brooks, for coming on and joining us. We did get a couple of other super chats, so let me hit that real quick. Dunk on you once again. Thank you so much, Dunk on you. You've been immensely generous, and we really do appreciate it. It helps us out a lot here, so thank you. And I think our demonetization problems are probably only going to get worse as Trump is in office. Here's the problem with all of this. Y'all are assuming the official act thing is not there. Forget all the rules. They're off. He does things, then they go to the courts. That's an interesting observation, which is
an accurate one.
Yeah. And that ties into what I think everyone else has been saying, but I think it's an important, until it gets challenged, the de facto standing is it's an executive order and he's made it, and it has to be challenged, and then it has to go through the courts. So who wants to stand up and not follow an executive order simply because it's being challenged right now? It's still the executive order. That's what's in place. That's a really good point. Thank you for that.
Well, one of the things about the court system, though, is, and this usually can be seen as a good thing. You can argue about it or not, but the courts can issue a stay on these things while they review them, to prevent it from going into effect or anybody having to follow it. But if you overwhelm the system like that and just get so many things, at what point can they? Do you get so backlogged they can't even enter a stay in it, because it's going to be months before they even get to the point of having any kind of legal meetings, legal procedures done on it to have a stay even issued. So there's going to be several of these that go into effect because the courts don't have the time to go through everything to be able to even issue a stay. So I have a feeling that's one of the reasons for trying to dump so much at once. Is because you're going to get a lot of that stuff through to actually take effect.
I think Brooks hit it dead on the head there with they'll stop the most egregious things with stays and such, but a lot of the little stuff's going to slip through because they simply don't have the time or funds to combat it.
And that actually, I got the impression that was kind of already starting to happen with Jack Smith and all of the prosecutions. I mean, there are so many prosecutions against, it's like between New York, Letitia James, between all the criminals. It's like, yeah, he was really pissed about the ones that he got hooked on, but they forwarded this to Florida because it looks like with Mar-a-Lago, he's in violation of any number of, and it looks like everybody's just sort of sitting there going like, there's so much to prosecute him on. Nobody really knows how or where, or even if it's worth beginning, because he's just going to delay it to death. And as president now, he can basically pardon himself for any of the federals.
Executive privilege.
I'm just acting in my official capacity.
Yeah.
Representing the will of the people.
Oh. Really didn't think... as Xander will tell you, before the show started, I was trying to get everything, squared away for just getting the list of stuff that we knew. And as I was reading it, and I got to the we're going to put a flag on Mars, and I was just like, is this real? And I was like, I'm double checking all of this stuff because there's just no way. I was like, if I was a comedy writer, I couldn't, and sure enough, it's all real.
Well, I'd have to disagree with Brooks' statement that we couldn't put a man on Mars. I think we probably could. Getting him back from Mars, that's a whole different story. So, suicide mission to plant a flag, I see that as an entirely realistic possibility here.
And I think there are people who'd be willing to do it, especially if somebody's terminal or something like that. I can imagine finding people to do it. Darian Vaughn, $4.99 to Mars. You want to, Nick. That's the ugly blue shirt again. Ugly blue shirt. I am. Oh. Just kidding. Listen,
I'm wearing my official black sweatshirt of mourning right now. So.
Your black it's tight, and I was sitting there going like, okay, it's Inauguration Day. I'm going to have to wear a tie for this. I was like, no, fuck this. I'm not wearing a tie for this one. I'm not. He doesn't get a tie. And yeah, we are trying to reduce the swearing on In Time because it affects the monetization. It affects the algorithm. But I was like, today is just going to be very difficult. I realized I let that one fly. It's just like, it's a challenge. This one's a challenge. Dunk on you. My generosity is because you do good things. Well, thank you, sir. We try very hard, and I think everybody here is here because they believe in what we do. So thank you for that. Also, dunk on you, $20. And the court system is loaded. If MAGA doesn't like a decision of the lower court, it will go up to the Supreme Court, where their Supreme Court is, of course, stacked, which is another. Jesus, the number of problems. I think Brooks may have had a point, which is like the old weapons for once they got the Supreme Court. I think they had this locked. Because everything eventually just goes up to if they've got the Supreme Court and if they've got the executive and basically have, Republicans have, MAGA does not own Congress, but they have enough of Congress that they can bring it to a grinding halt if they want to. So that's kind of like having, they can hold a gun to everybody's collective heads and they're crazy enough to pull the trigger. So it's sort of like oh, dear Lord. So I'm going to check the White House website. I'm also going to pick up some water because my throat's getting dry, probably because I've been talking a lot. So let's see. And just see, I think Brooks has got, we're expecting, and there's a couple more. We also do believe, oh my. Well, now, the White House.
That's always a good sign.
The whitehouse.gov page has been changed dramatically. I think I'm going to need to show this. Holy smoke. It is now a campaign ad for Donald Trump. It doesn't officially say it's a campaign ad, but it's a campaign ad. Actually, I can probably get it right into the thing.
Trump for president 2028.
This is weird. I have never been to, so let me show you what I'm seeing on, okay, so normally the White House page, the White House.gov page is nonpartisan. It's, because it's an office, it's not supposed to be politicized. So let me show you what's there right now. I'm gonna see. Let's bring this. So and there's two things. I want to see if there's a video that plays, which is as far as I'm concerned a campaign ad. And okay, so let's see. Yeah, there it is. If I can just bring that up. All right. So as soon as you go to the page, it plays this. Oh, and there is audio to it. Oh, and of course I didn't put it up, so I started playing it without putting it up. There's a lot going on today. Let me restart this back to the beginning. And I'm also going to turn up the audio a bit because I think that was kind of quiet. So let's get the audio up. And this is now the what you see when you go to the White House website, the official White House website.
Just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
And this is now the background on the whitehouse.gov. But that's insane. You see, I'm sorry. I went to I just couldn't. I'm going to the website to check and see if they've posted any executive actions. They've got a page, President Trump's first priorities. He has not posted any executive actions yet. But wow. Okay. So that
break.
It's the same thing here. What?
He's taking a hamburger break. Once he's had his McDonald's.
Yeah.
Priorities, dude. Priorities.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know. Jesus. So everything I'm going to say, I'm trying to find something to say that's original, and it's a little hard at this point because all the complaints are going to be the same. When a dictator gets into office, this is the kind of thing they do. They turn the entire the office itself into self-promotion.
Cult of personality.
Yeah, and it's like, holy smoke, that's the official White House webpage, and it's all about Trump with the flying and the helicopter door opening, and it's like, oh my God. Dear Lord. We have oh yeah, that's a good question. So I'm aware that saluting in the U.S. Army is actually, or in the military, I should say, is a thing because is it if you salute up, versus? Can you explain that to me?
Sure. First off, saluting protocols are different in the different services.
Okay.
So if you use the Army protocol, you basically salute whether you're in uniform or not, whether you're covered by wearing your hat or not, whether you're indoors or not, you salute everywhere. In the Navy, you only salute when you're covered in uniform and not in a building or a vehicle. And technically speaking, a return of said salute is not expected if the person is not in the military. Although normally it has gotten to the place where when the president gets out of, Marine One helicopter or what have you, he salutes the troops that are standing by the stairwell. But technically there's no requirement for him to do so.
All right, I'm going to play. Oh yeah.
Since Trump is the president, he's supposed to be saluted, assuming all the normal service protocols are in place. Whenever you see him, it's just like when you see a senior officer, you're supposed to salute him.
But since he's a civilian, he does not need to salute back.
Correct.
All right. I do want to. Yeah.
I was going to say, you may remember there was a time when Obama got out of Marine One, and he had a cup of coffee in his right hand, and instead of saluting, he just kind of nodded to the Marine Guard. And oh my God, it went on for like 3 or 4 days on Fox News of how he needed to be impeached for not properly returning the salute and all this other garbage, which perfectly showed that Fox News had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's like also, at least I've never really looked into the other branches and their saluting protocols, but in the Navy, you salute anybody that's higher ranked than you. You initiate the salute to them. Yeah. They are under no obligations whatsoever to return your salute. So when we have like one of the admirals walk down the deck, and they of course stage a bunch of the crew to be along the main deck so that they can salute him when he's coming up to the officer's stateroom or the CO stateroom. It's like he'll just be walking down chatting with the captain, and neither of them salute back. They just walk right down the thing, go right up into their, and the fact that the president was never in the military, he's not obligated to give any salutes to anybody. And it used to be that unless you were in the prior military, that you wouldn't salute back because you were just a civilian, even though he was the head of the military. So that was such a stupid thing to be upset about. Yeah,
but to put that in perspective, I do weekly shopping at the nearby military base at Fort Lewis, and I would say probably 50% of the time, my failure to return a salute to the gate guard leaves them quite confused. They don't understand why I'm not doing it, because the Army retiree officers will return that salute because that's in their service protocols.
So we've got a super chat, 279 Canadian from Lynn S. Is he really president if he doesn't swear on the Bible? My understanding is all he has to do is affirm the oath. The Bible is merely, I was going to say cultural. It's not what I.
It's tradition.
Thank you. Traditional.
In theory, you could swear on, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, or Walt Whitman's Sea of Leaves, or whatever it is. I can't remember the name. But
when I rise to power, overthrowing the tyrannical government with me and my homemade stash of weaponry, I shall take my inaugural address on Tolkien's Lord of the Rings.
Okay, YouTube. Just if you're listening, that was a joke. That was a joke. He's not planning on over that. That's Trump. Oh, and of course, my camera crashes at just this exact one of those really weird look on my faces. Okay. I'll put the shield down.
You
I gotta
look
get
disgusted.
that's an appropriate expression for today.
Is it?
Yeah,
is it?
That's a great guess. That perfectly sums everything up.
Let me.
Of course, you just look like disgusted over the whole thing.
I'm going to regret. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Swearing on Dr. Seuss.
All right. So, well, I'm going to put the shield down anyway because I look weird, and I'll see if I can get the camera fixed. For whatever reason, I doubt it. All right. So we've talked about immigration. Does anyone here think that he's really interested in this, or this is just, again, what it took to get him? I mean, if it's cheap labor, I think he'd be interested in it. So is he really just, this is what MAGA wants, so this is what MAGA gets?
I think it's a little more nuanced than that. It's that if you have those workers that are here illegally, then you don't need to give them, decent pay. You don't need to give them benefits or medical care or anything. All you have to do is threaten to turn them over to INS and they can get deported. So it keeps labor costs down if you do it that way. So they're not going to stop illegal immigration. They're just using this as a way to keep labor costs down for the ultra wealthy that run the big companies and such that depend on that labor.
Sorry, I was distracted. I decided I am going to try to fix the camera anyway because I'm an idiot.
Hit it with a bigger hammer.
I was about to say couldn't hurt.
It doesn't appear.
Yep.
It doesn't appear, just based off of some of the stuff that he said about what he wants to do, that he really knows or cares very much about many of these things that he is claiming to do. He's just doing them because it's popular. The soundbite is popular.
I can guarantee you he didn't craft any of the legislation. That's stuff that, the Heritage Foundation handed him on a silver platter.
I mean, to be fair, I think most presidents kind of do that. They have their trusted advisors. They kind of really go through and craft everything. But they usually...
I can't imagine him discussing it with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Is, at least... Usually the presidents will say, hey, here's what we want you to do, and they'll go into depth and they'll actually have a meeting on it, and so he'll at least be somewhat apprised of what this is supposed to do and have at least some base knowledge about what's going on. And I really don't think Trump does. Just look at the scope of things that he's trying to do. I mean, any one of these main political things could be the culmination of an entire term to try and get through. And he's doing all of these at once. It's like I don't know how serious he can be about any one of them if he's going to drop all of them at once. Like, how do you expect to split the attention? So yeah, I don't think that he knows or really even cares about what most of this stuff is actually going to do. It just, the generalized overarching talking point of it was popular, kind of like the way that you can manipulate polls just about anyway, just by the way you word the question to get the response you want. I have a feeling that's kind of what's going on here with many of these executive actions and many of the policy that he has claimed to want to pursue.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it from a strategic point of view, the logical way to do it would be to dump like 30 or 40 today and then trickle them out at the rate of 10 or 15 a day until you're done with everything, because that keeps everybody completely off balance and it keeps you in the news rather than the opposition who are talking about how they're going to stop X, Y, and Z, because every day it's new stuff. So you're first point in the news.
That's a really interesting observation. And the other thing is, by day 6 or 7, everyone's so exhausted of talking about it. Save the worst ones for day 8 or 9.
Numb to it all.
Yeah, it's what is
and tie up resources over some of the least consequential of them, and then drop the bigger ones a little bit later on when you've already tied up a hell of a lot of resources from people going, oh no, they're freaking out about these things, and you've tied up these resources to try and oppose it, and then you either get people that drop their oppositions to the previous stuff to try and it's like, oh no, this is far worse, we got to attack this stuff, and they kind of abandon all of that other stuff. Or they're just too clogged up, too many, to stretch too far, too thin, and some of those bigger ones actually get through.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the list. We still don't have his first official one. I now don't want to go to the whitehouse.gov website. That was the I just threw up in my mouth a bit, is in my view a little bit of an overused expression. I've never used it. Well, now I just used it because that was just shocking. That was shocking.
All praise to our new orange God King.
Yeah,
with great praise.
Well, and when you looked at the way that that's set up, it looks like clearly designed to try and get people's minds associating the White House with Donald Trump.
Yes.
Like Donald Trump is the White House.
Oh, hell, it's like more than that. It's America is Donald Trump and vice versa.
Yeah, is entering, was that the, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's right, except I think the intent is larger than just White House. I think he wants to make himself synonymous with being a country. He wants to take on that North Korean, the Kim family and North Korea are inseparable model.
Yeah. Well, and that's also, I mean, again, the background page for that now is that. I mean, that's the main page for America is Back. Yeah, and who's America? For anyone who's new, I kind of almost want to play it again. If I play it again, it's gonna be without the sound. We'll wait. We'll show it again because it's news. As much as I hate to say it, oh my God.
It's comedy.
It would be comedy if it wasn't. Zelensky was a comedian who became president. Trump was a president who became a comedian.
So true.
Or became a joke, I should say.
That's a more accurate way of putting it.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right, let me get back to just make sure I haven't missed any. So yes, he's president. One of the things I was thinking that was, well, I think there is a very good case to be made for Trump was not president the first time. dear God, if he figures out this case and tries to make it, and then goes for a third term based on the fact that his first term was invalid, but that would ostensibly invalidate everything. So I think nobody's really gone after it. But I think because the election, I don't believe that election was valid.
I don't think that's the way he'll proceed.
I don't think so either. But
I think what will happen is in 2027 we'll get embroiled in some war, and he will use that as an excuse to temporarily suspend the election, since we're involved in too much strife right now to be able to focus on an election.
Yep. No, I think you're right.
Get pushed down the trail.
I need to go back at some point. We'll cover. I had written an article on how he was going to do this, and I wrote it in 2017. And so I'm curious. I look at it every now and then. Some I got right, some I got wrong. But here we are. $20 dunk on you. I really hate what happened today, but we should all have seen it coming. Today is a very dark day for democracy. Thank you, Nick, Commander 𝐒𝐻𝐿, for being the voices of logic. Thank you for your continued support, dunk on you. I'm very lucky that Commander and 𝐒𝐻𝐿 believe enough in the show that they're willing to come on so consistently and give their views. For me, I've been doing In Time 4 or 5 years, something like that. And it was because I felt it was hard to get deeper perspectives than in the news, and the deeper perspectives were always actually more about sort of hyping something up and trying to be very big and trying to be dramatic than actually getting into the meat of an issue. And so we and I think, you know, all the mods, everybody who volunteers on In Time, I hope and believe that they believe in that at least as strongly as I do, or else they wouldn't be here. So your support means a lot and helps, I think, validate all that work. Thank you, sir. We really do appreciate it. So, don't make me go back to the White House website.
Okay, so look at it this way. This may be the best thing to happen in American history since the ratification of the Constitution.
And you would defend that by?
That Donald Trump will do so many egregious things, will try and, you know, like I said, upend our republic in all of the ways that all of his worst critics have said, and that it will actually burn away the apathy of half the country that doesn't vote, that may or may not complain, who don't have a clue what's actually going on because they don't pay attention to it. They're living their lives, doing their own thing. They're like, oh yeah, there's that Donald Trump guy. Maybe you like him, maybe you don't. Don't really know what he's doing. Don't really know any of the ratifications of any kind of federal policy. Don't know who even their own local politicians are. You know, they're just checked out of the system. And perhaps maybe this will get enough news coverage, enough things will happen that will burn away much of that apathy. People will become interested and engaged in the political system that is, you know, ruling them currently, and we'll actually get a return to a lot more common sense, a lot more fundamental ideals of the United States, and we may come out of this a better nation with better laws, with better safeguards against, you know, somebody trying to become a dictator over the United States. So maybe this may end up being one of the great moments in history that people will look back on in another 200 years and go, wow, you know, there was this attempted fascistic takeover of the United States, and the American people really proved why, you know, America was originally viewed as special. You know, that's why everybody was courting the United States, and, you know, up through and including World War II. You know, they really were that shining beacon, and they proved it when they were able to put this down, get the reforms in place that needed to be in place, you know, and become the true shining city that on the hill that everybody would want to emulate.
So my very initial thought on that would be,
don't laugh too hard, please. I
would be laughter. Yeah, I was trying. I was like, if I laugh, I was like, I was just talking about how much I respect 𝐒𝐻𝐿 and Commander, And I can't just laugh at him, and I appreciate the effort he's putting into it, but man.
So much optimism.
Yeah, I was like,
You couldn't see my face while I was
copium or hopium.
The fact he could barely control himself from bursting out laughing tells you a lot.
I was wincing and whinging the whole time.
I appreciate
maybe
I will tell you this.
There is a non-zero chance that happens.
I will tell you this. I think the chance is greater than people would anticipate because I think it's greater than people would anticipate, and the reason is because we did see the Arab Spring, so we've seen it happen. I mean, the first thought that happened that crossed my mind as Xandering was saying this was to go. So, Lance, in history, how many times has that happened? when we find ourselves in this position, how many times has it shaken the people out of apathy? And the answer that I'm aware of in history is pretty close to zero.
Zero.
I said there's a non-zero chance that happens.
So,
but there's also a non-zero chance that your cat will kill you. So,
well, this is true.
Yeah.
I have to have a cat, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Well, and the Melania coin. We should get into that. We should get into that. I need to get more water.
Like 2 weeks ago, he announced Trump bit, and now, just like yesterday or the day before, they announced Melania coin or Melania or whatever it's called.
Yeah, and
to me, it's obvious what you do it because they get like $40 billion of investment into Trump coin, and then I'm sure he has a massive hold in it. As soon as the price goes up where he can make a profit off it, he sells it. You invest in the next new bullshit scheme, and people are doing it. And people think they're ripping people off to some extent, yeah. But what it really is it's a laundering service for criminal enterprises. And they love it because the normal fee for laundering illegal funds is around 50%. But if you're doing this and you're careful through, rising and falling cryptocurrency prices, you can probably limit that down to 25 to 35%, somewhere in there. So that's pure profit for the criminal enterprises.
Yeah, I had because it was late at night and because I'm naive as hell anyway. Titan hit me up with that one. It's like the Melania coin. They're doing a pump and dump. It's like, yeah. I just thought it was Melania pissed at Donald Trump. I was just like, yeah, Melania made her own coin. Yeah, right. Who am I?
It's all coordinated. It's coordinated.
Yeah, Melania probably doesn't even. Well,
expect Ivanka coin or Jared coin in the next week or two.
Well, and Musk is the ideal person to help them out with that kind of thing. And Melania, probably, she had to sign one statement just so we're making a Bitcoin in your name. And she's just like, is this divorce papers? No. Well, fine, I'll sign it, but tell me when I can sign the divorce papers. Oh, dear Lord. All right. So I do know. So the way the New York Times got. Okay. So we've got a little news coming in. The portrait of General Mark Milley has been removed from the Pentagon wall.
You really hate his name, don't you?
Is it Milley? It's
yes.
What is? I think it's because I don't see the other L. It just I see the I, L, L. It screws me up, and I think the E gives you a hard I, and I always go Miley. My brain does not like that word. I like him just fine. It's his name. He shouldn't have three things in a row. I've got to get my glasses too. Oh yeah, there they are. That might
just remember it's like Milli Vanilli. Just remember General Milli Vanilli.
No, then I'm actually going to say General Milli Vanilli. That's one key January 6th. Let's see. So James McHenry has been named acting attorney general until Trump can find another pedophile to run the office. I'm sorry, that's not exactly what it said. Until Trump's nominee is confirmed. Trump's nominee is no longer, to be fair. I'm surprised Trump didn't nominate P. Diddy. Let's see. Flag raised to full staff at the White House. Oh, Dodge hit with multiple lawsuits after Trump sworn in. Now, or Doge. Now you got to ask yourself, is Doge, do they mean the Doge office that he's created or Dogecoin? I assume it's the office that he's creating of personnel that's going to ostensibly fire between a third and a half of all federal employees and somehow generally increase efficiency.
I have kind of an interesting take on this. Well, may not necessarily agree with the people he's put in charge of it, but the idea of Doge, I think, is a very good one. I think that it's incredibly limited because of what we call mandatory spending, things that have been written in to the programs that make it they must do these things. They don't have the discretion. So when you look at the discretionary spending, it's like the idea of it is good because we cannot maintain mathematically, we cannot maintain what it is we're doing. It's going to cause a crisis at some point. I just don't think that this particular, the way that they've set it up, it's not going to do anything. And until a politician is willing to risk the suicide attempt to actually start changing some of the non-discretionary spending programs that we have, and actually getting the strength to stand up and say, we cannot do this, then I don't think anything of substance is going to change. So the whole thing about Doge is, again, a tempest in a teapot full of... Anyway, that's kind of how I feel about that. I wish it was going to do something, but it's not. I mean, even if nobody challenged it at all, they don't have any authority. The kinds of things that they can actually, they can only make recommendations. And even if those recommendations are followed, given the limits, they can't significantly alter the trajectory. So I wish we could get a little bit more. Actually, what I wish is I wish we could get like a constitutional amendment prohibiting Congress in times of peace to from deficit spending, so that if they introduce a bill, they have to immediately increase taxes to pay for that new bill. And I think that we would find really quick what the American people are really interested in funding and what they really aren't. But that's, I don't think, we had this discussion about whether constitutional amendments are going to be passed or not, but it's a problem, and it's a problem that's not going away. It's getting worse. I don't believe for a second that Trump's going to make this problem any better. I believe that he will make it far worse. I mean, the second highest spending president in history, just barely beaten by Biden, and I don't see this being actually solved. So it seems like this is almost a distraction, or perhaps maybe it's somebody's way of kind of floating the idea of, hey, maybe we should get some sort of accountability in the amount of money the government is spending and where it's going and why we're spending it. But I don't think anything's going to come of it.
Well, and I think the problem is the whole BRICS plan is, I think, to try to, and we had talked about this. So BRICS was telegraphed, I want to say 2 years ago, when I forget which country it was. I want to say Saudi Arabia. One of the OPEC countries said they would no longer take dollars in payment for oil. They'd take any currency but U.S. dollars. Now, realistically, that's not a huge problem because it's one country and you can, exchange dollars for whatever. But the only reason to do that and to create the hassle and that you're creating for yourself and your customers is if you expect other countries are going to follow, and if you're going to try to dethrone the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. So I think that's what BRICS is going to be a major shot at getting the U.S. dollar off as the reserve currency. And if that happens, that given our national debt as high as it is, we need to talk to an economist. I can only use words like, catastrophic and rise in inflation, inability. A huge body blow to the U.S. economy, possibly as bad or worse than we were looking at 2007, 2008. I don't know enough about it to opine past that. What is Andrew? Any thoughts?
The reason we've been able to survive doing this so much and done a lot of deficit spending is because we have the reserve currency. There's always, and why we haven't had a major financial issue in the country centered specifically around that, say a sovereign debt crisis, is because we have the reserve currency. There's always a demand for dollars. It's like we have the unique ability to export quite a lot of our inflation around the world. So we don't see nearly as much of it here as you would expect to see for the amount of deficits, the amount of new money coming into existence of the United States, and the fact that, borrowing all that money, we have to go into the markets and try and borrow that money, which should drive interest rates up. Edging, and none of that stuff really seems to happen all that much. And so it's like you'll listen to a lot of different economists, such as Peter Schiff, who's going, he's just the one that has been harping on this forever. And at some point you're like, okay, you can make a prediction of just about anything. And if you keep that prediction long enough and saying, oh no, it's coming, can't say exactly when, but it's coming, well, eventually it probably will, or something similar to it will. And you can go, aha, I'm right. But he keeps pointing out, it's like, look, you can't do this, and this is terrible, terrible things are going to happen, and it's just not really come about. And then it's like, oh, well, the problem's getting worse and worse and worse, and yet it keeps going on. If you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, the trade deficit was going to end the U.S. It was going to cause massive, huge problem in the U.S. We were going to have a massive collapse, and we were going to lose the reserve currency back then. And if you notice, the trade deficit today is, 100 times the size, and nothing of significance has happened because of it. So it's the ability to keep going down the road, I think, has been largely a product of the fact that we have the world reserve currency. That's why we didn't have things that happened in like the 80s in Russia, or we didn't have a collapse of the Zimbabwean dollar. It's like none of that stuff, the Brazilian collapse. Economic collapses, all of those things happened because of the same kinds of policies, the same kinds of federal spending that we have here in the United States, yet we've largely escaped completely unscathed by this. Now, eventually, that's going to come home to roost, and it's going to bite us in the ass. You can't paper over this forever. It's mathematically impossible to continue it, so therefore it will not continue. But we've been able to, escape most of those consequences. We've been able to push these things down the road because a lot of this largely doesn't really matter. So I do think that BRICS is an attempt to kind of nudge the United States out of being, or the U.S. dollar at least, out of being the world reserve currency. I don't know that they're really trying to take over everything, but they're rather just saying, hey, the United States has been pretty irresponsible with this, and so we should just remove them and try something else. I don't know. I used to think that this could happen a lot easier and faster, though there's been a couple of other things I've run into where trying to divest yourself of a system this large and this complex that's existed for as long as it has, trying to implement a new system is not nearly so easy as you think that it would be. So I don't really see things changing all that much. We've had a trajectory, and nothing suggests that trajectory is going to change. So I don't know that it will. Maybe. There's a non-zero chance that it does. Yeah. There's also a non-zero chance that we actually do get into some pretty strict fiscal responsibility, and that we can actually somehow get ourselves out of a nearly $40 trillion debt. I don't see it. But I can't say it won't happen just because I can't see the solution. That would be a fallacy. So it's possible, there's a non-zero chance that everything will be fine, and that all of the economists that are going, hey, this is not good. It's like we're kind of okay with it now, but as I pointed out before with some of our like climate change stuff, we're really bad at mitigating foreseen problems.
Yes.
It's like we're not so bad about identifying what could be a foreseen problem, but then we kind of get into that whole "don't look up," which I'm glad you finally watched that movie, although you never did tell me exactly what you thought about it. But we kind of get into that era of what's like, well, we've identified this problem, but we're just not going to look up at it, and we're going to wait until we're actually forced to, because it could be political suicide to try and force the issue before it becomes forced, because now you're blamed for it. Whereas if you wait until it comes to a head, now it's it's a tragic thing that just happened and there were so many people behind you. It's like you can't take the entire full responsibility for what comes next. It's like, oh no, this is just a sudden existential threat that we just must now suddenly deal with, even though we saw it coming from a long ways away. So yeah, we're not so good about mitigating foreseen problems on the horizon. We just go, hey, I'm looking in, like our politicians, for example, are just looking in election cycles. I want to get elected next time, so we're going to do what we need to do to potentially get elected again, and we're not going to rock the boat too much. Yeah, this is a problem, but it's not a problem yet. It's not even a significant problem yet. So we can keep going business as usual. And then when it comes to a head, and and some people, of course, don't think there's ever going to be a problem. That's how we end up with modern monetary theorists saying, hey, debt doesn't actually matter. You never really have to pay any of that back. You can just keep making up money and spending it. Just add more zeros to the balance. Nothing bad is going to happen because nothing bad has happened. So I don't know how long they can kick down the road, although I am impressed at how long things have been able to go. And I think that the reason the United States hasn't had a significant sovereign debt issue is because we have the world reserve currency. And it's not nearly as easy to divest of that as I once thought, or at least I don't think it is anymore. So it can be really hard to unwind a system like that until the system just collapses. Usually systems like that end up collapsing, and then out of the wreckage is where we get a new system. That's generally how these things go. And I think that's probably what's going to happen in the US. So we'll see what happens. There's a huge amount to do about this Doge thing, and I think that the idea of it is really good. But I don't think that anything's really going to happen. They're using it as a political wedge now, instead of what it is, hey, the federal government at least has been pretty irresponsible with money. Maybe we should look into that. And now it's being, we got Elon in charge of it, and Ramaswamy, although apparently he's kind of on the outs now. It doesn't have any power. It doesn't have any power because he can't just by fiat create a new federal department, and so they're calling it a federal department, but it's not a federal department, and so it's an advisory department which he can create, and it's going to operate as an advisory department, even though it's being called. And I think that gets back to what Lance was saying earlier, which is that it's like if the rules get kind of broken enough, well, it's called a federal department, so even though it's not one, we'll give it the authority of one, even though we're not supposed to, because nobody's really looking. A couple of quick things I want to get into. He has now started signing a number of these documents. We'll start getting into what he has signed. I did want to say that during his inauguration, he said that his life was, that his, quote, life was saved by God so that he could make America great again, obviously in reference to the assassination attempt in which his ear was hit by a bullet. Of course he said that. Why miss the opportunity? But it's like, and that is going to play so well to his base. Yeah, oh my God. This is getting genuinely scary. Trump reiterated his plan.
I said he's the God King.
Yeah. It's really.
It's this almost. I mean, it's almost like history doesn't exactly repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. Where have we heard something similar to this? Ordained by God to rule.
Oh yeah, it's, Hitler fell with it.
I'm sure nothing like the Dark Ages will ever happen again, and it's completely unrelated.
Yeah, yeah.
Couldn't possibly be, divine right of rule by divine. That can't possibly lead to anything bad. It's never have in the past. I mean, it's got a good track record. I'm sure it does. Has to have.
Yeah. It's well, if God ordained it, of course it does. Trump has reiterated his plan to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. The White House website has been rewritten and declares America is back. Panama has declined to hand over. I'm just telling you the news that we've got from the last 2 hours. Panama has said that it is declining to give the U.S. the canal. Let's see. Mexico has launched a program to support citizens who could be deported. Trump has reiterated that he is, in fact, going to pardon all of the January 6th, everybody jailed or accused of having committed a crime on January 6th. He has also said that he is going to pull out of the Paris Peace Accords and promote fossil fuels. We believe that is on his agenda today. We don't believe that he has signed it, but we believe that is one of the, we're now being told it's closer to 100 executive orders that he is signing today. I do have, and I want to get to, because I've had a couple of incomings, so let me quickly get to those. It's just, and we do have now, wow, okay, by proclamation, by the authority vested in me in the Constitution of the United States of America, I hereby order that the flag of the United States shall be flown at half staff at the White House and all public buildings, all military posts and naval stations, and all naval vessels of the federal government and the District of Columbia throughout the United States and its territories for the remainder of the day.
Full mast, not half mast.
No, half mast. Normally flown at full mast for the at full staff. You are correct.
Yeah, because we're still in the official mourning period for Carter. This was something that he got Johnson to push through. So today is a special day.
Oh, today's too special. We can't be mourning for Carter. By the way,
the Orange God King has ascended.
Johnson said on, I think it was Sunday, that Congress will enforce the laws of the United States. So we have a president and a president-elect who have said that as president, they will not enforce the laws of the United States. One law which Biden signed, and the same law which was a law that had to be passed because after 2 executive orders failed to get through the Supreme Court, Trump passed it to the courts, create the law. 2 U.S. presidents say, we will not enforce the law, even though that's their job. And then Congress, whose job it isn't to enforce the law, but to create the law, says, we are now going to start enforcing the law. Fuck.
Up is down, down is up.
Okay. So yeah, we're at full mast.
That's good.
Please watch for fiddles in the White House.
Yeah, watch for the oh my, holy smoke. So okay,
that's how petty these people are.
Not only petty, I want to, and I'm aware. Okay, I am aware that let's talk about a couple of serious things here in terms of why he's been successful and what it is that he's attempting to do, at least projecting that he's attempting to do, which is that America, other countries are afraid of America. And we've talked about this before, and especially with you, Lance, and I think this was a really great discussion on the fact that it does work that our enemies are now kind of more afraid of us. They don't know what we're going to do. So he's been successful that way, but it isolates us because our friends don't fucking know what we're going to do. We may even invade them. We've talked about invading Panama, Canada, Greenland. I mean, so, and pulling out of NATO, all of this other kind of stuff. So we're bedeviling our enemies, but we're bedeviling our friends as well. Now, a part of this is this compulsive need that he seems to have to project power. And I do believe that projecting power is extraordinarily important. I think Barack Obama, much of the time, did a good job with it. On a few occasions, he did a very poor job with it. And I think the criticism... There's an argument that he created ISIS. He didn't create ISIS, but it was his failure to follow up with the Assad regime after drawing that line that he should not have drawn, that emboldened and allowed ISIS. So I think there's a... So listen, I completely fucking understand that if you do not project strength, your enemies will take advantage of you. Having said that, there's projecting... I think Trudeau projected a lot of strength, especially for a fucking Canadian. You know, you can project. Angela Merkel projected strength like there was no fucking tomorrow. This is now the White House page for the administration. This is Donald Trump's official image on the White House. It's what he said. It's the light coming up from the bottom. He looks like a supervillain. And that look, he's trying to intimidate. Oh my God.
Yeah. There's a Marvel supervillain if you've ever seen one.
Well, and that was what's his name from Last Week Tonight said Elon Musk is the world's first true Bond supervillain. All right, so all right, we are definitely starting to see. Okay, and there's one I do not want to forget, and we may have to start moving through these faster because we're starting to get in. I gave this list at the beginning, and it wasn't near the 100 that he's going to do. He has announced, and we mentioned this earlier, but we mentioned this at the beginning. He, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't signed this yet, but he has said that the United States government is going to declare that there are only two genders. There's a very serious problem with that. There's a number of very serious fucking problems with that. I have a BA in psychology, and I remember day one in Intro to Psychology, you learned that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that difference is very important. This is in the fucking 90s. We had some idea. We have since learned a great deal more. Gender dysphoria is a thing. It's an actual biological thing. People who have it and who are forced to fight it in one way or another are at much higher risk of suicide. We know it's a thing. It's been a thing since the dawn of time. How do we know? Because this was the other thing. I don't know. I felt terrible using this argument, but it to me, it's the most obvious fucking argument. I remember in the 80s, people were like, homosexuality is a choice. They're going, wait a minute, wait. If you're gay and you get caught, people will kill you. And it's a choice. Nobody who had it as a choice would be gay in the 80s, 70s, 60s. I was no. It's a real thing. How many there are, how many, who, what, we're going to learn. That was my thinking back then. And by the way, it was perfectly acceptable back for the Greeks. In fact, it was preferable. Aristotle's ladder of Eros, the greatest form of love was homosexual love. So it's been around. The same thing with transgender. The point being, there is not two genders. There is no social scientist, there's no psychologist, there's no biologist on the planet that would say there's two genders. There are plenty of biologists who will opine on sexes and how and why, and that's a whole nother issue. But I have never heard of anyone say that there are two genders, and the distinction used to not be that important in the 80s and 90s because we didn't realize that dysphoria was a thing. We didn't, and we've grown, our knowledge of human beings have grown, and the diversity of human beings. There is not two genders. And that I can tell, there is probably about as many genders as there are human beings on the planet. Now, since you can't really work that way, people are going to identify however they're going to identify. But Jesus, sorry, it's one of many bills that's going to get people killed. It's one of many bills that's going to get people killed. Does anybody here have a disagreement with that, or feel that I'm not representing their views sufficiently that they need to contradict me? Or I just would like to add. Does anybody here want to add to that before we go forward? All right. Let's see. A lawsuit has been filed against Elon Musk and Vivek Ramsway, new non-governmental entity. Yes, thank you. That suit was filed basically the moment Donald Trump was sworn in as president. Let's see, Titan, you have been doing spectacular work, and I want to thank you while I have a moment. Pursuant to, okay, so Donald Trump has now, for all of his, now this isn't, okay, so he's put in acting members of every cabinet position that I can see here, 20, 30 acting cabinet members. Now, that would, so if it's acting, Commander, that would not be recess appointments, right? Or would it be?
It is a way to circumvent the whole need of getting them approved by Congress.
All right. So he's got, now what I see is 30 cabinet secretaries, roughly, I'm just counting here, have been filled by, let's see, just by acting members pursuant to 5 USC. So he has essentially now built a cabinet. This does not mean he's still trying to get past various, like for Health and Human Services. We have Dorothy Fink. I've never heard of this person, but I can't believe she's worse than RFK Jr. So, we'll see what happens. It looks like he's now made also a number of sub-cabinet appointments. This has all been done. Each of these was a single. Now, again, we're expecting about 100 executive actions. Wow, my brain. We're expecting 100 executive actions today. One executive action appears to have filled all the cabinet level positions with acting directors. Another executive action has what he says nominates, so it appears that they're not filled. They have to be why. So somehow he's filled the secretaries just by fiat, and the assistant secretaries or deputy secretaries are nominated. He has terminated all of those acting in, either they resigned or he's saying they resigned, typically at the end of. So essentially, every 4 years, the entire cabinet resigns. They write a resignation letter and they submit it to the President of the United States. The reason is so that if the President is unhappy with any of them, he can let their resignation go without having to fire them, without there being a big hubbub or anything like that. Most of the time, the President doesn't accept any of the resignations, and this is just this is part of the established pattern. Maybe he'll accept 1 or 2 resignation, and there you go. But every 4 years, they resign. Especially if there is a change in administration, you'll see the resignations all accepted. So just sort of like, yeah, here, bye, thank you. So what we're seeing is a mass resignation, but it's not unexpected. It isn't like protest resignations. What we're in the sub-cabinet appointments, they actually offered their resignations probably 4 years ago as well. The incumbent president basically always accepts them because he's going to, not the incumbent, sorry, the incoming president accepts them because he wants to replace those offices. So let's see. Designation of the chairman and acting chairman. This is for the FCC, Federal Trade Commission. I hereby designate the following. So he has filled Federal Louis E. Sola, chair of the Federal Maritime Commission. I assume that's nobody you've ever heard of, Commander.
No.
Okay. I don't recognize any of these names. David Wright, chair of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Andrew Ferguson, chair of the Federal Trade Commission. If that's like the comedian, it wouldn't shock me. I grew up with a David Wright. He's probably not even remotely close to qualified to acting for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, so it's quite possibly him. Let's see. What is this? Trump. All right, I'm going to have to. So, what I'd like to do right now. Oh, hold on a second. What I'd like to do right now is I do need to take a moment away. Oh, are you guys?
Let's take a brief break because I have to let a puppy in. So
okay, so Commander, you go take a break. Xandring, if you could opine and just cover things for a minute. I actually won't even need a minute. I need about 30 seconds. So, any thoughts on what we're seeing so far?
When I went on that, should have done that while I was doing the stupid mini rant.
I'm trying to catch up. There's a lot, and what's amazing is, and here's the thing, folks. For those of you who are joining us, so. We have covered, we've done stuff, this is kind of intense. We've done stuff this intense or more. We've covered riots. We've had people killed on air. The amazing thing was I did the interview with Mercado. And for those of you who've been around for a while, we saw Rittenhouse live. And we were covering Kenosha live. So I'm interested to know if any of the footage that we got came from Mercado or if we have him in our archives, because he was there live too, which would be an interesting coincidence. But when we do that, we have to funnel and filter. And what's just funny is I'm starting to catch up on a backlog of things. And what's funny is that each next one is like, holy shit. It's just like, oh my God, okay. It's like if he's actually started the program to land a man on the moon. Oh dear Lord. So, so Xandring, if you could just give me, give me a minute and let me know your thoughts on how we're proceeding, because I'm going to need to listen to something else for a minute.
I think that it's all early times, a bunch of speculation about what's going to happen. We really kind of need to get into the texts of the things that he signed.
Oh.
And you have to, if you want to listen to things and then go, oh my God, in the middle of it. It's like, wait, what?
Sorry.
What?
I didn't mean, I really didn't.
Here.
I need to. No, I'm going to show you because you have to see this. And we're going to need to talk about where Elon Musk got his name from. We've talked about Elon Musk before. And some very concerning Nazi background in Elon Musk. His father wrote a book that was a white nationalist, and Elon has expressed pro-Nazi ideology before. If both of you are watching, I would like both of you to see this. This was what I was watching and I wanted to see it before airing it, and I was trying. Yes, I'm trying not to. You were talking as Andrew. I just did because nobody told me what this was. I just got sent this video. So if you gentlemen would like to watch, here's the video. This literally just happened. 2:55. 30 minutes ago.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a bit of an unfortunate
Well, I think that was
gesturing there.
That
I don't
was
think
deliberate.
I don't think that was unfortunate. I'm the most naive of the three of us, and I don't think that was unfortunate. I think that was deliberate, and I think it was changed enough that he can claim plausible deniability. I don't think that was unfortunate. Now, the audio is probably meaningless, and I keep forgetting when we bring in new files, the audio often is kind of low. The audio isn't that important, but I want to play it where you guys can actually hear it. Those of you out front probably didn't hear it. We're going to do this one more time. I was watching this while Xander was like, and I was listening to the audio because I thought he said something crazy. So I was just like, here you go. I was just like, okay, what do you say? What do you say? What do you say? And then all of a sudden he does that. I was just like, whoa. Okay, so here we go one more time. This time where you guys will be able to hear it.
And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you.
It's going to be a long day. Yeah, so that was 30 minutes ago. Trump's right-hand guy. By the way, and I forgot to mention earlier, there is a rally of Proud Boys marching through D.C. right now. It's reasonably small. We believe it's about 24. The police have been following it. It's actually been going on for the last 4 hours. It's got a Trump sign. We haven't covered it because we've had so much else to cover, and they've been nonviolent, so there's no news there. You'd think normally the Proud Boys marching through D.C. would be, almost breaking news, but today it's like I managed to slip it in. Oh, by the way, let me oh dear Lord.
There's going to be a lot of that though. This at the very beginning here, because there's so many things going on, and it's like we said earlier when Brooks was still here, it's like any one of these things you could do an entire show on, and now we're going to group 50 of them together and go, well, we're definitely going to be able to give you a complete rundown on everything that's going on and what it means, the implications, and oh yeah, by the way, this is happening too, and this is it's like you barely get something out, and something else is going on, and so yeah, it's going to be difficult with so many things going on at once.
I agree.
Yeah, here's oh wow, I'd like to be getting. I mean, one thing we usually try to do is to. I mean, look, it's in time. The motto was always, news, politics, and culture. So culture is definitely part of it. But today, it seems like I want it to be a news day. But culture is going to end up being a part of it. So what we're going to end up doing here is. That appears to be the wrong. How is it?
1932 Weimar Germany.
I know. I'm. Well, people have always said that, and I'm starting to get. So, Girls Gone Bible is a religious and spiritual podcast on Spotify. It is the #1 religious podcast on Spotify, and Girls Gone Bible has attended. I think it's the post Trump, post-inaugural, and what's going to happen is there's going to be about 12 inaugural balls. They always say the inaugural ball. It's usually 12 or 13. The reason it's so many is so that you can give out tickets to all of them, and the president just goes from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and you just say, oh, I was at the inaugural ball. You could have been at any of the 12 of them. But that's sort of, all right, so this is girls. Go, you know what? And I'm going to up the volume because this you need to hear, and then I'm going to need to get, and then I'm going to challenge Xandring on one thing that he said in just a minute, and I want him to stew on it and be like, "Uh-oh, what's Nick? What have I done now?" But before I do that, so this is Girls Gone Bible. They are the #1 podcast for religious podcast on Spotify, speaking at an event. Probably it's right before one of the inaugural bowls. The inaugural bowls aren't going to start for a while, but so let's see what they have to say.
God, we thank you. We thank you that your will always prevails. Thank you, God, that it's your will. Your kingdom come, Lord. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in America as it is in heaven, in the life of President Donald Trump as it is in heaven.
And we just want to take a moment and honor President Donald Trump. And we thank you for your relentless love and devotion you have given to this country. And we bless you and we bless your beautiful family. And if we could all just bow our heads down to pray.
All right, yeah, that's enough of that. That's exactly what you were talking about too. I mean, it's like, okay, this is a religious, that's blasphemy.
It's a cult.
I mean, not, what?
It's a cult.
It's a cult. Well, and Stephen Hassan, who I actually met, I actually hung out with for a little while. In my senior year in high school, he came to talk, and I ended up deciding to do a presentation on cults because I met Stephen Hassan and got to talk to him. He helped me out with the presentation. He just did a thing on MAGA as a cult, and but I mean, it's blasphemy to say that you can speak for God or know God's mind, and I mean, I don't care. I'm an atheist, but the reality is, this is some of the most presumably religious people on the planet. They have the #1 podcast, and they are literally engaging in blasphemy. Now, I'm trying to get. I'm gonna. This is not easy to get. So we do have a number of ways to try to get media off of social networks. They don't necessarily like that you do that, but we have to do that if we're going to cover some of the things we're going to cover, and it's not always easy. So what I'm trying to do right now is get something that I'd very much like to show the audience if I can, but I'm having considerable difficulty with. They have means of trying to stop you, and we are constantly trying to get around those means, and it looks like today I may be foiled. So what I'm trying to get is that Elon Musk thing. He actually does it at least twice. It's looking like he almost does it 3 times. So he did it once that you saw. I'm going to show again without the audio. Here he is. He's doing this. Now there is an audience behind him that you can't see. He does this, and then he turns around, and you just see him starting to turn around. And when you see him turn around, he does the exact same salute, only this time it's actually it's much more it's the actual Nazi salute when he's doing it facing the crowd behind him. I can't get that video. I can see it, but I can't actually get it into the system right now. I'll try to get that. But so he does it twice, and the second time it's the second time is much more recognizable. Wow. Yeah, this thing is fighting me. It does not want to. Elon Musk. Well, is it ironic that I'm downloading all of this stuff from X? I'm going to try one more time just because I do want to. Yeah, it's not going to let me do it. Wow. All right. Well, I'm sure there'll be more crazy news to follow that up. All right. Well, while I try to navigate back to the White House website, I'm tempted to do a bit of a rundown for those of you just joining us because a lot has happened. But before we continue, does anybody have anything that they wanted to add or say on this before I navigate the oh, here we go. Yeah. Yes, you were saying?
One thing that authoritarian movements seem to almost universally do is invoke God as backing them. And it's a thought process which I think is encapsulated nicely by the German Nazi belt buckle, which had the slogan "Gott mit uns" around a swastika. And what that means is God is with us. In other words, the political movement tells God whose side he's on and what he needs to do. It's not God leading, it's the movement leading. God is a follower of the movement. And you see that with the Trumpians, you saw it with the Nazis, you saw it in Russia with Putin. I mean, the immediate use of bringing back, Russian Orthodoxy and incorporating that as an instrument of state policy. It's very, very common.
All right. What I'm going to do is I've found a kind of a workaround here. I'm going to try to snag this, and I don't think it matters whether or not we've got audio. I'm just going to let's just see, because I think it's worth seeing. There it is. All right. So here we go. I'm going to put it up. This is that same gesture. And here we go.
Making it happen. Thank you. Thank you. My making it happen. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I mean, Lance, any thoughts? That second one looks to me to be pretty.
At least from the sound, it sounds like he's clicking his heels to boot.
Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. I got to hear that now. Well, one of them is he hits his chest so hard, he gets excited he's excited.
That technically is not a Nazi salute. That's a Roman salute.
The second one seemed Nazi to me, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the second one was much calmer. So the first one is like for the crowd, he's like, yeah, and then on the other one, it was. I mean, you can't mistake the second one. All right, let's see that one more time and listen. The audio. I don't know if how the audio is for the audience. I know internally it should be good, but let me up it for the audience just in case, and we can see if we can hear. The heels, because if he does the heels, that's it. It's over.
Don't pay attention to the first one. Pay attention to the second one, because I didn't see his hand hit his chest on the second one, but there is definitely a thump noise.
Yeah, there is. And it's not letting me. I hope is that the audience. Okay, yeah. The audience should be able to hear it. Because, yeah. Okay, there we go.
Making it happen. Thank you.
There's a light click
Thank
there.
you.
Hard to tell.
Yeah.
Hard to tell. All right. Was I not showing that as we were? Sorry.
Yeah. You just had the audio.
All right. I'm going to turn off. No, we'll do this one more time because the audience should have seen it. So let me do this one more time, and you guys can make your own assessment. You hear a click. It doesn't. I hate to say this. I'm watching his butt. It doesn't look like it moves.
Making it happen. Thank you. Making it happen. Thank you.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, fuck's sake.
Either way, it's disturbing as hell.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to see if we can find what else Trump has done over the last few minutes. I got to get back to the White House website. The new monstrosity. I don't even.
You mean the Trump.gov page?
Yes. All right. So Trump has now come out with a list of what he is going to sign today. So here's what happened. There was a phone call between somebody in the Trump team, I forget who, and somebody who, it was reported to the press what they said, and that's how we got the original 10 White House executive actions that we knew were going to be signed. And the New York Times released those. They were all on immigration. Trump has now released what he is planning on doing, his first priorities, starting with what he's going to sign today. He will take, quote, bold action to secure the border and protect American communities. He will end Biden's catch and release policies, reinstating remain in Mexico, building the wall, ending asylum for illegal border crossers, cracking down on, by the way, this is also, remember he had the DREAM Act. That was not his, it was Obama's, but the idea that if you're getting an education and if you're going to, especially if you're going to use that education here in the U.S., the idea was that it might not be a bad idea, but okay. Cracking down on criminal sanctuaries, enhanced vetting and screening of aliens. He is going to Mars. Okay. President Trump's deportation operation will address the record border crossings of criminal aliens under the prior administration. The president is suspending refugee resettlement after communities were forced to house large and unsustainable populations of migrants, straining community safety and resources. The armed forces, including the National Guard, will engage in border security, while it's national security, which is national security, and will be deployed to the border to assist existing law enforcement personnel. So it's not just the National Guard, it's the armed forces. President Trump will begin the process of designating cartels, including the dangerous Tren de Aragua, as foreign terrorist organizations, and use the Alien Enemies Act to remove them. What is that? I mean, that suggests...
I've never heard of the organization before. Enemies Alien Act is kind of the same thing that was used with the 𝐒𝐚𝐦𝐚𝐫 in World War II. It's any group that you determine is hostile to your government, you can arrest them and put them in camps, deport them, whatever.
Well, if he's designating them as foreign terrorists, it sounds like he said he was going to invade Mexico. And it sounds like he's sort of being preparatory in that kind of action. I mean, if this cartel is going to be a foreign terrorist organization and use the Alien Enemies Act, I mean, that I would assume is local to the U.S., but foreign terrorists...
It's also a way to arrest anybody who, comes from that area of Central America as being suspected of, kind of like right after what happened with 9/11, we arrested hundreds of completely innocent, uninvolved people, sent them to, black sites and tortured them to find information, which they had no connection with the organization. And so it was just an excuse to let's persecute, people from the Middle East, whatever. Same kind of thing here.
Okay. Only with Mexicans.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The Department of Justice will seek yes.
I think the next thing you need to watch out for is something along the lines of the AMUF, where they'll try to use the existing one, which is the Authorization for Use of Military Force.
Yes.
Which allows the president to circumvent Congress having to declare war on another country or an organization. This allows the government to basically send troops in anywhere and anytime they want for, whatever undesignated period.
Well, in Mexico, hold on a second.
And what makes it interesting is, by logical extension, if you determine that group is operating in the U.S., then you can turn that same AUMF against American citizens.
Without the pesky posse comitatus clause, or would you still run afoul? Oh, Jesus.
Posse comitatus does not apply if you're prosecuting the war on terror. One of the
posse comitatus, please. Could you explain posse comitatus?
One of the reasons you see the use of U.S. high-tier special operations forces supporting law enforcement in some of the actions that occur in this country.
Could you explain what posse comitatus is to the audience, please?
Posse comitatus basically says that the U.S. military cannot be used in prosecution of of law enforcement missions unless it has been specifically authorized and approved in this country. So if you get an AUMF that authorizes you to use them against suspected hostile forces, and you determine that that hostile force is American citizens of some vein, then you can use that pretty much carte blanche anywhere.
And the whole idea behind it was, or the rationalization behind it was, so that the government couldn't seize control. I mean, it was so that citizens,
Precisely.
Okay. The Department of Justice will seek the death penalty as an appropriate punishment for heinous crimes against humanity, including those who kill law enforcement officers and illegal migrants who maim or murder Americans. Wow.
It is a crime against humanity if some guy who's illegal shoots somebody in a gas station robbery.
And listen, I'm a huge proponent of...
It's not just a regular crime. No, it's a crime against all humanity that he killed somebody in the course of a normal crime.
Which begs, I mean, how many crimes against humanity? I mean, the word crimes against humanity is going to have no meaning reasonably soon. I mean, we've tolerated so much between the Biden administration.
That's what the plan is. If you get people inured to it, then you can't accuse somebody of having done it because it's meaningless.
Yep. Make America affordable again. The president will. Yeah. The president will unleash American energy by ending Biden's policies of climate extremism. Wow. Okay. Streamlining permitting and reviewing. Yeah. And reviewing for recension all regulations that impose undue burdens on energy production and use, including mining and the process of non-fuel minerals. Trump's energy actions empower consumer choice in vehicles, shower heads, toilets, washing. We already covered that at the very beginning of the show. He will declare an energy emergency so that he can use all necessary resources to build critical infrastructure. So by declaring an emergency, he doesn't have to follow any policies or regulations, energy regulations. He is pulling out of the Paris Climate. In fact, yeah, President Trump will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
You watch, we're going to have more Love Canal incidents because it's good for American industry to just, make money. So let's dump all those toxic chemicals into the water supply.
Yep. And Love Canal is the most famous, but what was the other one?
Though.
What?
It's hardly unique.
No, I'm trying to remember what was the Aaron Brockovich one that got famous because of that wasn't Love Canal, that was another one, but it's the same issue.
Yeah.
All agencies will take emergency measures to reduce the cost of living. Yeah, now this is what you guys were saying.
How do you do that?
Exactly, the economics. Oh, for fuck's sake.
We're going to establish price fixing now?
That's the old, yeah.
And I can see them doing that because what that does is it eliminates small farmers and allows corporate farming to basically buy up all the farmland. And then you remove the price fixing and they can charge whatever the hell they want. Big business triumphs again.
Trump will announce an America First trade policy. We'll see what that means. America will no longer be beholden to foreign organizations for our national tax policy, which punishes American businesses. America will no longer be beholden to foreign organizations for our national tax policy. That actually sounds like the reverse of what you would expect him. Okay.
Well, I'm wondering what it means foreign countries are determining our tax policy.
Well, it says foreign organizations. So we're taxing, so the idea is Republicans have always said they want to lower the corporate tax rate so that other foreign companies will work out of the U.S. because the foreign tax rate, the tax rate is so low. So America will no longer be beholden to foreign organizations for our national tax policy. Well, I don't know that we're beholden to them, but we do make money from foreign organizations because we tax them if they work here. So the only way to no longer be beholden to them is to increase tax rates on local organizations.
Yep. Tax Americans, but not foreigners.
Yeah. But then he says, So what he's saying is we're not going to tax the foreigners, just Americans. Okay, so America will no longer be beholden to foreign organizations for our national tax policy, which punishes American businesses. Wow. I don't even know how would you diagram that sentence? Drain the swamp. The president will usher in the golden. Yeah. Okay. So to our audience, if you see pictures of me in a padded cell, pen and paper going like, just get shaking like this, you'll know what happened. And someone, for the love of God, just go there and say, look, he's trying to diagram this sentence. If we could just take the pen and paper away for a few days, he'll be okay. And then get me some Chinese food because I haven't had any in a while and I'm hungry. All right. President will usher in a golden age for America. I gotta say, before I continue, Xandring, remember what we've talked about, the covering the disasters, when we were covering riots and stuff like that. We've always had this discussion. It's been kind of difficult, which is having a sense of humor about it. Remember that?
Yes. Sorry, I'm in the middle of also working on my truck.
No, okay. I just want.
Yes, I remember that.
Well, and what were your thoughts on it? I can let you work on your truck. It's not. The gallows. You want to see people with a really warped sense of humor. Talk to EMTs. People who show up with somebody has their arm cut off or something like that, and they have a really warped sense of humor. And you sit there and say, how can you have a sense of humor about it? And sort of like laugh or cry. And it's a coping mechanism. The reality is I'm having a harder and harder time laughing about this because, especially, Lance, as you come in and talk about you're sitting there saying, this is how they're basically dismantling the United States of America. It's getting harder and harder to have a sense of humor about it. We're going to make jokes, but this is extraordinarily serious stuff. What are your thoughts before I continue?
No, I totally agree with you. I think the goal here for them is to completely upend what constituted the American system of government and how the business world operates in this country. And I think it's all designed to make kind of a hereditary oligarchy. We're going over, or they're trying to convert us over to a Russian system.
Wow, I can't think of a worse nightmare.
Oh, yeah. And I remind you of the fact that during the campaign, one of Trump's promises, his campaign promises to his base was, if you elect me, you will never have to vote again.
Yeah. I remember.
Yep. You know, dictators love to tell you what they're going to do in advance. Hitler had Mein Kampf. You know, Lenin had his various treatises. All of these people will tell you in advance what they intend to do. So don't discount it when he says that's what he's going to do. That probably is exactly what he intends.
So we've got from Darian Vaughn, $4.99. Mars in 4 years. Elon's last rocket was a fireworks show. LOL. To be fair, the rocket landed successfully. It was just a capsule that was filled with stuff that burnt up. Yeah, that would be like human being. Yeah, I mean, it's like, who cares about the astronauts?
They're just people.
Yeah, it's
as long as they get to Mars and get the flag up, that's all that matters. You know, if they run out of oxygen 5 minutes later, oh well, that's the danger of being an explorer.
Yep, but you die pretty, and because those lights were cool.
You'll go down in the history books. Which is the best thing that can happen to somebody who was one of the ruling oligarchs.
And the rocket is the most expensive part, so they everything's fine. Nick's shirt and another $1.99 from Darren Vaughn. Darian Vaughn. Apologies. Nick's shirt is NASA blue. LOL Mars. Exactly. I'm pro. Like I said, this color repels the Jewish space lasers, so that's why I wear it. $20, Dunk on You. Thank you once again, Dunk on You, for your, and thank you, Darian, both of you, very much appreciated. Thank you. It would be funny if it weren't going to have to live in it. I'm scared shitless. That's a worthwhile conversation to have. That's a worthwhile conversation to have.
Just want to clarify something. Your blue shirt,
yes,
isn't meant to be a representation or an homage to the Irish fascist movement called the Blue Shirts.
I'm thinking of changing my shirt color now.
Well, just wanted to clarify, you know.
Well, oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Well, I like the way you said it because it made it very clear the way you said it that it, yeah. Just hold on a second. All right.
Never let a historian tell you about reality.
In Time is having some technical difficulties. I apologize. My shield is down. We don't know why. We're going to work on that. So the screen is, I've lost control of the screen right now. The show
is a lighter shade of blue, then you're okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll get a lighter shade of blue. Mouty, is anything happening in the news today? Yeah, Mouty, hold on a sec. I want to show you something. This happened, this happened, about half an hour ago? Here you go. This is Elon Musk. And let's see what Elon Musk has to say. He is delighted about the election.
Making it happen. Thank you. Making it happen. Thank you.
So that was Elon Musk about a half hour ago, and that's probably one of the least crazy things we've covered. It's been cray. And we are going to do a rundown of sort of what's happened. The defacing of the White House page is actually particularly troubling, and we'll discuss the how and why of all that. But so. He is, let's see, so Trump is issuing a golden age for America by reforming and improving the government bureaucracy. He will freeze bureaucratic hiring, except in essential areas, to end the onslaught of useless and overpaid DEI activists buried in the federal workforce. He will pause burdensome and radical regulations not yet in effect that Biden had announced. He is also announcing he being Trump is announcing an unprecedented slate of executive orders to repeal. He wants to improve accountability for government bureaucrats. Americans deserve the highest quality service. He intends to return federal workers back to being only 6% of employees. No, I read that wrong. He claims only 6% of federal workers work in person and everyone else is remote working, but he is going to end remote working. So he said nobody will be allowed to remote work anymore. He's also declared only 2 genders. Mouty, you might be interested in that. There's only 2 genders. That order, I think he has signed. So the government will only recognize 2 genders. No, I said genders, not sex. He was, yeah, oh dear. Let's see. Trump is ending unconstitutional censorship by the federal government. No longer will government employees pick and require to ensure the entirety of true speech. Now, this was one that I had seen earlier. I think this is where he's talking about he's going to end, what is it? He's going to end libel laws. So you can just make up any old shit. That was on his agenda, right?
Well, the opposite is also true. He wanted to liberalize libel laws so we could sue anybody who was making fun of him, accused him of anything, etc. So that strikes me as more of a throwaway statement than a real one, because it can cut both ways.
Now, we've talked about this before, especially I think it was Erdogan who made it illegal to make fun of him. And there's a few others. That's always, why is that so important to dictators?
The one thing that really angers and presents dictators as weak is making fun of them. There's no real counter to it. You know, you can say he's a bad leader and he can stand up and point out all the great things he's done. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. He can still say that. But if you make fun of him, if you call him, you know, the orange Cheeto Bonito or something, that's really difficult to push back against. So wanting to silence that kind of stuff is very important to them. And that's one of the things that Erdogan did. He had legislation introduced and then, you know, made into law that anything that criticized or was critical of the president of the country, of Turkey, was illegal. And I can easily see something like that trying to be introduced here, which is, you know, the great leader is sacrosanct. You must never criticize him.
And FYI, yeah, we got my camera working again. Apologies for that. I don't sometimes. They're just technical issues on the back end. So we appreciate everyone being patient with us for that. All right.
Kind of like Blake, you're wearing Republican red because you've been intimidated by the great leader. You're thinking proper thoughts now. You hate me, don't you?
Oh shoot! It broke again. It broke again. Sorry, folks. We're having more technical issues. I don't really. It's just been a long day. And
there's a song, Tina Lauper. I think that's who it was. Sang it. I don't remember who wrote it, but she did a version of it. Several people have done a version of it, and it's coming to mind all of the sudden, out of the blue, so to speak. And the name of that was "I See Your True Colors Shining Through."
Yes.
I don't like either of you very much right now.
She's Tina Lauper. Cyndi Lauper.
The next screens that are going to come down with audio blocking is not going to be mine. I'm just saying.
Also, the remember we were talking about.
Look at the time. It's time for me to go and take care of it.
The thing about allowing free speech or whatever it was from the governmental side or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly how you put it, but yeah. It's in reference to the perception that the U.S. government colluded with or coerced, however you want to look at it, social media companies to kill certain stories. So that was what that one's all about. Is he's going to end the government's collusion with or manipulation of social media to try and get certain stories banned off their or downvoted or hidden.
My camera does appear to be fixed again. Once again, apologies. It's a, you know, I'm gonna get a higher end camera. You guys have been great with the super chats. I really appreciate it. It means we'll be able to get a camera that doesn't just break every time Lance says something really mean.
Is that a black shirt?
Yes, I was just about to say. He's showing his support of the black shirts now. That's probably not a great look, Nick. I mean, that's.
We all knew you secretly endorsed Mussolini.
I was about to get brown, but
that was too obvious.
No, that's it. No, that's it. Excuse me. Hold on a sec. Okay, 1, 2, we're done. All right, thank you all. We've accidentally lost all of our guest hosts. They're just gone. This is the Nick Suter Show going forward. I can't stay mad at you guys.
A picture that's in black and white, so you can't tell what colors I have on.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm really just upset with both of you right now. All right. So for a new shirt, UTV and Ham, $5 for a new shirt. Thank you. I'll have to get the color approved. And at this point, since every color has been used by somebody somewhere, and I've had it made clear to me by my co-hosts that whatever color I use, they're going to associate me with said fascist organization. I don't think I'm going to... Hi, Tie-dye.
I had to look this one up just as preemptive, but the green shirt movement was the social credit movement in 1935 in Great Britain.
Tie-dye. Do I have any tie-dye anywhere?
Yeah.
So associate me with the hippies.
Jimmy
What did they do?
Shirt. Okay, that would be great. Yeah.
What did?
So you're supporting all of those factions then? Wow, you're an overachiever.
Yes. I think In Time has hit a new low, folks, and that's really, quite frankly, that's saying something. All right. Okay, with your permission, gentlemen, I'd like to get back to the real issues at stake.
No shoot at all.
Yeah, well,
there are no real issues. Stop blowing smoke up everybody's panties. It's not happening. It's a perfectly normal day. Things are going to go on just the way they always have. I don't know why you're getting so clickbaity with, oh my God, it's, wanting to open the show with, it's REM's, it's the end of the world as we know it, but you were more concerned about getting, a copyright strike or something, Yeah,
I was.
Yeah. Can't take somebody seriously who's worried about getting struck for using REM.
Yeah, well, I was genuinely, I was going to play It's the End of the World as we know it, but I knew Abu was going to give me a hard time too. So I was just like, you know what, I'm getting yelled at by everybody who works on In Time now. I was like, next thing you know, Titan's going to be coming out after my ass. Actually, if I go full drag, not drag the way you think, but drag another way, then he's really going to come after me. So basically, we also now have from Reuters, the dollar has plunged after Donald Trump has, let's see, after he has actually, it plunged because he said, this is odd. Because everybody else's currency went up, that's why. So the dollar is down. The yuan has jumped after Trump has said that he may not do the tariffs, or at least not do so immediately. This has prompted a rally in every other currency. So because those currencies are going up, the dollar is going down, relatively speaking. I was trying to figure out how it's just like, okay, that took me a second. Trump issued or will issue a broad trade memo today that stops short of imposing the new tariffs. Officials for the new Trump government said he has no specific tariff plans that he mentioned in his inaugural address, but has repeated his intention to create a, quote, external revenue service, a new agency to collect, quote, massive amounts of tariffs, duties, and other revenues from foreign sources. Yeah. Oh, dear.
You can't just say, I'm going to enact a bunch of tariffs. Everything has to have an adjective that, amplifies.
Yeah. It's... NATO chief has said that the alliance will turbocharge defense spending with Trump in office. I've said this before. It's a little weird, but is there any... okay, Lance, let me ask you this.
Sure.
And it's going to come off as a silly question. But I mean it in the most broadest sense. So not as in technically starting a war, but just symbolically because they're pissed at us. What do you think is the possibility that somebody like Canada, Denmark, one of these countries feels threatened enough by something that the U.S. does, including but not limited to some form of intimidation or actually sending troops over there, that they invoke Article 5, which, as you know, does not declare war. It doesn't mean, but that they say, you know what, we're going to invoke Article 5 because the U.S. is fucking.
I think a lot depends on what it is that triggers that kind of, or potentially triggers that kind of thing. So if you do get a case of like the U.S. landing troops in Greenland, yeah, somebody specifically Denmark, but could be any one of the other Scandinavian nations, might invoke Article 5. But if it's just, this posturing that seems to be what's really going on right now, they'll kind of feel uncomfortable and they'll think about contingencies, but nobody will actually act or to invoke it. What I do think we're likely to see, in fact, I think we're already seeing it happening, is that the European nations are going to start making bilateral agreements with one another that kind of duplicate what NATO already does. And it's because they feel they can't trust us to be part of that alliance. That, okay, if Russia were to attack, say, Poland or Lithuania or whatever, would the U.S. say, yeah, we're going to get involved, or would Trump, because of some backroom deal he's got with Putin, say, oh, no, that's not our problem? And so I think a lot of those countries are starting to say, look, we need to take care of our own business and not be so heavily dependent on the U.S. And that's why you see some of these countries, specifically Poland, whose defense spending has jumped enormously. We're only supposed to do what, 2 or 2.5% GDP for defense, and Poland's like at 4.7 right now. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that starting to happen with more frequency because of just this kind of issue that people are looking back and saying, the old paradigm of the U.S. being the big man on the block, the world policeman, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't hold true anymore. We need to look out for our own interests external to any relationship we have with the U.S. I'm not saying they're going to say, we're leaving NATO, because NATO still provides a lot of what they're looking for. But I think you're going to see a lot of people starting to form duplicative alliances that kind of do the same thing that NATO does, because they want to make sure their interests are covered.
Well, my understanding is, so the EU, people sometimes think of the EU as a much broader organization than it actually is, something like NATO, but the EU is just an economic trade organization. Having said that, the EU has, if I recall, said that they can now militarize and that they are starting to develop an EU military. So could you see in 10 years, basically, members of both the EU and NATO saying, hey, the EU has gotten basically as strong as NATO. It doesn't even need to be as strong as NATO. It needs to be strong enough to repel Russia, which right now Ukraine is doing. So if the EU gets strong enough to defend itself against any likely threat in Europe, then they could start slowly withdrawing from NATO, so they don't have to pay both the EU and NATO simultaneously for their protection, and then just, NATO becomes obsolete.
Possibly, although I think funds spent on defense could be used for fulfilling both obligations. So if you have a NATO obligation of 2% GDP and whatever EU military alliance gets set up, it requires 2%. There's nothing that says you have to spend 2% for each. You can say, okay, I've spent 2%. That covers both of each.
I hadn't even thought about
that. I think will likely happen if they start pursuing they being Europe, start pursuing more localized defense structures, is that a lot of the military hardware which we provide Europe may become domestic European production that they're buying instead of American production. And you're going to see a lot more joint projects, like there was the Eurofighter, which I think 6 or 7 different European nations were involved in the development and production of that. You'll see, I suspect, more joint projects like that among the European nations to come up with, the EU's version of Patriot or what have you. Because I keep sending money to the U.S. when you aren't as comfortable about the U.S. being able to use that to help you.
Or being willing to, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Why am I reading executive orders from... Oh, that's why. Okay. I'm reading executive orders from 2017, and it's because it's the... yeah, I don't need the archives. Thanks for the archives.
But those were all probably already superseded by Biden administration executive orders. So Trump will likely have to reinstitute every one of those, or at least a portion.
All right, so let me do the super chats, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Elon Goebbels for a few minutes, and then I stole that joke. I think that was Doritos on the Discord, but I like that one. We'll hit the live chat, and then we're going to figure out what our strategy is going forward, because Trump has left the Oval Office. So he had indicated that he would sign roughly, we had thought 150. It was reduced to 100 executive orders on his first day. We are aware of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that he has signed. He has indicated in his inaugural address what he intends to do, and we know from reporting by the New York Times at least 10 different executive orders that he did plan on signing today, though we do not know if they've been signed. He has left and has gone to a congressional luncheon, which is a little late for lunch, but okay, and is hobnobbing with members of Congress right now. I don't know what he's going to do for executive orders, and we'll discuss that in a minute. But for those of you who are joining us, well, first of all, live chat. As I said, UTV and Ham for a new shirt. Thank you so much for that, Johnny. Negregard, 22 Swedish krona towards a new camera. I just don't know what's wrong. It's, we'll get it sorted. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Darian Vaughn, $4.99. I mess with Nick. Sorry, love your show. Listen, the live chat is supposed to mess with me. That's what they do. The problem is when guys like that one right there and that one right there start messing with me. The problem is I don't pay them enough that I can actually, there's nothing I can withhold to keep them from messing with me. It's just like, all I can do is say you can't come back on my show, and they'll be like, oh, okay. So there's really not much. Let's see. That's over, and they're parading in another rally. He will be signing them with big fanfare on a stage. Dear Lord. Okay. Why does Mowdy have a wrench? Mowdy should not have a wrench. There's no courtesy wrenches. Of course, he does guest host every now and then. You're the only person, Mowdy is the only person, I think, anywhere in the general dais who has actually hosted an in time when I wasn't present. Still, I don't think you should have a wrench. Just a personal thing. Okay. Where are we? I'm going to try to figure out how much of this I'm going to try to do from memory and how much I'm going to read, because there are so many sources. For those of you just joining us, Donald Trump has been inaugurated. He is now president of the United States. He has said that he would sign about 100 executive orders today. He has signed that we are aware of 5. Most of them are just filling cabinet positions temporarily until his nominees get through the through the Senate. He has also ordered that the flags, which were flying at half staff in honor of Jimmy Carter, be raised to full staff, because I guess fuck Jimmy Carter. he has done a lot.
I'm sure it grates on him that this is also Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah, and I actually had plans for today. We have a show on Martin Luther King. We've got a video that we did that I'm very proud of. I think In Time did a great job with it, and I was going to be shopping it around, but we've been doing this all day. So the White House has made significant changes to its website, which I actually find very disturbing, and here's why. The presidency is not a person, it is a position, it's an office. And so, somebody holds that office for said however long period of time, but they're not Grand High Poobah, they're not a king, and in general, the Oval Office is called the Oval Office. It's not called Biden's office. So, in general, the White House website is usually pretty bland and does not honor the person who is in the White House. It honors the office. This tradition has changed. We are going to show you right now if you go to the White House website, this is what you're going to see. The background for the homepage is this. America
the fact
is.
We don't hear the fact we don't hear the dulcet sounds of Lee Greenwood in that is actually a little surprising.
Of Lily Greenwood?
Yeah, Lee Greenwood. The dulcet voice of Lee Greenwood. If I had to start again. My family and my wife.
Yep. So, meanwhile, Elon Musk at a event. Actually, it was at the inauguration, right after the inauguration, did the following.
Here.
Elon Musk's family does have, in fact, his father was, I forget if his father was a member of the Nazi Party or, I shouldn't even say I forget if. I remember that he was somehow associated with, but I don't remember, so I'm going to have to, I shouldn't have even said I don't remember if, because that's a big if to be wrong about. So, but I remember he had ties with white supremacists. So at any rate, Trump has come out and said that he is going to enact a large number of executive orders. Many of these executive orders violate the Constitution. He has said that he is going to use the U.S. military to help enforce the border. He is going to end asylum.
Notice how frequently in that new White House video that you showed, how frequently images of the U.S. military are portrayed.
Yeah.
That's another authoritarian thing. You've got to show that you've got a strong military behind you, because then nobody can move against you.
Well, and the God thing, which is he said in his inaugural speech that God saved his life so that he could save America. He said he is going to end asylum seeking for illegal border crossers, crack down on criminal sanctuaries. That would be sanctuary cities, I believe, enhanced vetting and screening of aliens. He plans on, suspending refugee resettlement. The armed forces, including the National Guard, will engage in border security, which is national security, and will be deployed to the border to assist existing law enforcement. He will designate cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. He will seek the death penalty for people guilty of heinous crimes against humanity, such as killing law enforcement officers. He will roll back Biden's policies of climate extremism. He will streamline permitting and declare a national energy emergency, allowing businesses to ignore climate policies and regulations. He will use all necessary resources to build critical energy infrastructure. He will end the leasing of massive wind farms that degrade our natural landscapes and fail to serve American energy consumers. He will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. He will insist all agencies take emergency measures to reduce cost of living. That's one, again, we decided we could do a whole show on what that may mean. He will announce an American first trade policy. He will freeze bureaucratic hiring and cut overpaid DEI activists buried in the federal workforce. He is announcing an, quote, unprecedented slate of executive orders for, I always want to say recession, rescission. I always want to put the D in there, rescinding, for rescission. President Trump is, let's see, the government that's free speech. President will establish male and female as a biological reality to protect women from racial gender ideology. Now, the biological reality is how it's put here on the website, but the way Trump framed it is gender. Either way, he's going to bump into issues, but with gender, it's going to be far worse. American landmarks will be named appropriately in honor of our nation's history. That includes changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So that is long and short what we've been covering. We also pointed out two rather interesting things. First of all, on the White House page, that is the image of Donald J. Trump. And I mean, that's like supervillain lighting. He's lit from the bottom. I'm aware that he's, quote, trying to intimidate our enemies, but it makes him a joke to our allies as far as I'm concerned. And it's not, it used to be. Is that his mugshot? Actually, at this point, he might as well just say felon right there, because he wants to intimidate people. It's like, if he's a felon, that's going to intimidate people. It's just like, yeah, Donald Trump, felon. He'll fuck you up. We also noted, just as a curiosity, he did not actually have his hand on the Bible for this. This probably doesn't change a thing. It's only ceremonial, but nonetheless, I think the reason he didn't have his hand on the Bible was because the Bible would go up in flames, and people would find that suspicious. So he didn't put his hand on it. The other one, this is from 2017, I think you said. She's going to be the Deputy Secretary of State, as I understand. Is that right? Did I get it wrong? Did I get it wrong again?
Nick. Look at the very bottom of that picture.
Oh, where it says October 15th.
3:38 p.m., 5 October 2015. Okay,
you got to realize, as you guys can see it as big as you want. Me, I see it really, really tiny. But I do see that there, and I'm glad I correctly called it as October 15th all the way from the beginning. Anyways, at the Berlin Wall last week, walls work. And as Commander McMillan lists, you don't necessarily want to be comparing yourself to East Berlin, walls work when you surround them with landmines, razor wire, and machine gun nests. That's not the way the wall was during the Cold War. It did not look like that.
And even then, they don't work 100% of the time.
Yeah, people got in under it, or out under it, I should say. Nobody was trying to get in.
It was never about building a wall to keep people out. It was always about building a wall so that money could be shuffled from one treasury account to somebody's personal account.
Yep. All right. So
Part of the grift.
Yeah. Now, one of the I want to cover a couple of the things that we've talked about in general, and then we'll figure out where we're going to go from here. So there's a lot of changes that Donald Trump appears to be planning on making very quickly. And one of the things that we had Brooks on earlier, and all of you seem to agree on, was that with this many changes, it actually makes it very difficult to fight them, because you can sort of fight the big ones, but then the little ones get through. There's limited government resources. There's limited amounts that you can actually challenge these things, and people who have enough money to keep taking them through the courts. So, this is, he takes a shotgun, fires it off, and he only needs a couple of the pellets to hit. And meanwhile, while everyone's distracted with this, he's doing the Trump coin and the Melania coin thing, where he's basically either laundering money or just doing a pump and dump scheme to make more money, because right now he needs it. So, and he's establishing himself essentially as authoritarian figure. Is that roughly, have I encapsulated the views of the panel here? I think Commander is writing something. So if you have
writing. Sorry, I missed your question.
Well, I basically said that what we're seeing is I want to be careful saying this, because it's so easy to get clickbaity. The one reason we don't clickbait is because when we say something very provocative, we want people to believe us. So In Time does not use clickbaity thumbnails for that very reason. And I think, for the most part, anyone who's watched us and actually reviewed our history of thumbnails and what we've done, we've worked assiduously to avoid it. So, so I'm going to make the claim at this point, we are looking at the rise of an authoritarian who is working out of the authoritarian playbook to essentially install himself in power permanently. Whether or not he will succeed or not, notwithstanding, is that effectively what you think is happening, Commander?
I do. I think that he believes himself to be so beloved and doing so much good that he wants to push himself into a position where he becomes effectively dictator for life, or at least is in a position to be the kingmaker for whoever succeeds him and succeeds them, et cetera, et cetera. He wants to put into place a situation where his legacy is effectively guaranteed as the founding father of the new republic, if you will. I think that's kind of what's going on in his mind. Whether or not he can do it is open to interpretation and guessing. I think a lot depends on how the American people respond to what he's going to be doing. And before everybody says, oh, the American people will rise up in arms and everything, remember how many of them voted in favor of him.
Yeah.
Democrats admittedly botched it by starting with running Biden, who was vulnerable to claims of he's too old, and people kind of fell for that. If you look at everything he did, I think he's reasonably up there in terms of presidential actions in terms of how well he performed. But his age was certainly a vulnerability. If Biden had been smart, he would have said, no, I'm not going to run for a second term, realizing that vulnerability and put somebody else up there. And then they compounded that problem, in my opinion, by running Harris as the replacement for Biden. And honestly, I don't think the broad American public is ready yet for a female minority president. I mean, look at the huge reaction to just Obama, a male minority, getting into power, and how much pushback there was from not just the right, but also from middle America. So I think the Democrats miscalculated badly, and now they've put us in a situation where, at least for the next year, while everything settles out and we actually see how all these new policies are going to perform, for the next year, we're vulnerable to him being able to push through all sorts of BS that dismantles much of the current American system of government. And even if people do react against it, how effective is a grassroots protest movement going to deal with it? I hate to say it. I've said this before. You've heard me say it on this show. I think we're looking at a civil war at some point. I'm not saying it'll result during his term or immediately following if he tries to run on a third attempt or something. But I think we're sliding into that movement because the camps in America are so deeply divided. There's this chasm between them of what their vision of what America should be is. And until we find some way to resolve that huge gulf of difference, I don't know that we can avoid armed conflict. Now, when I say that, I don't mean we're going to have, armies of blue and gray fighting conventional battles. I think it will become a guerrilla terror conflict. But I don't think we can, at least the way things are proceeding right now, I don't think we can avoid it.
Zandering, any thoughts?
I think that there's an overwhelming amount of stuff that's coming at us, and it's going to take time to work through it. And I'm hoping that we can get through it somewhat quickly so that we don't run into the problem of that they can overwhelm everything and get a bunch of stuff through, which is, I think, kind of what the point is. So I think we're going to be spending a little bit more time trying to pay attention to what he's actually doing, what he's passing, what he's signing, etc., because he seems to be hell-bent on doing a whole hell of a lot by executive action and trying to get all that to stick. So we got to watch.
All right. So here is, I want to check one other thing before, let me just. So here is what I'm thinking. Let's see. Yeah. So, for those of you who have joined us, thank you so much for being with us. I do hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you to everyone who has super chatted. That really does help a lot. It helps more than you know. So does the like and subscribe. Also, make sure you ring the bell so that you get notifications when we go. As of this moment, Trump is in a parade. He is expected to sign several other executive actions. Well, several. He's expected to sign close to 100 executive actions. He has already signed 5 that we're aware of. We've discussed those 5. As of this moment, he is not signing any more. So rather than wait around and just try to fill time, which is something that I try not to do too much of, you end up doing some of that on YouTube at any given time, but we're not going to say.
Late afternoon. He's got the rest of the day.
Yeah, so he may do it later tonight. We don't know. So what we're going to do is this: we are Again, become a member, subscribe, and the subscribers or the members really help too. That's just, $5 a month or something like that helps us out a lot. So, but if you ring the bell, what we're going to do is we're going to bring it down. Everyone's going to maybe get a bite to eat, and we're going to wait. He is going to get back to signing. We are going to keep an eye on what he signs. If it is roughly as expected, and as we've told you, we will consider whether or not we're going to come back. We may come back just to confirm it and let everybody know. And we're a news organization, even though we anticipated it. We anticipated the inauguration. We covered it here. So we'll sort of decide what to do. If you go to our Discord, that's also where information just comes in and is for the most part always up to date. Very proud of the work that people are doing on that Discord. Make sure that we're often ahead of mainstream media. But at this point, since we don't know when he's going to get back into signing, and we still think there's roughly 90 left that he's going to sign, we've given you a pretty good idea of what those are. We've given you an idea of what our concerns are. I think they're genuine concerns. I think probably many of our audience shares them. So I hope you will join us when we reconvene, if and when it is appropriate, based on further signings that he does. Any final words, Lance, before we go?
Other than, try to pay attention to what's happening the next few days and do what you think is appropriate to register your displeasure. I can't really think of much to do. I will note one thing that I think can be done and that we should continue doing. I know a lot of the people on this and associated channels are very pro-Ukraine, and I think continuing to pressure your elected officials that Ukraine is important if you want to ensure America continues to support Ukraine in its conflict, I think that will still have some impact because there is such a strong sense of that in the country. And you can already tell that from his language, Trump is not leaning towards doing what everybody feared, which is simply severing all support and ties with Ukraine. But he will certainly be under pressure from some directions to do that. So the more pressure that can be applied to the government, particularly from the electorate, to let him know that, no, we can't do that. That's too risky. There's too many people that support Ukraine, and that might prove to be a step too far. So I would urge people to continue writing, emailing, texting, calling your congressional officials and such. That's, I think, a very important thing to do.
All right. Thank you, Commander. Zandring, any final thoughts before we go?
I think we just need to keep an eagle eye on watch groups that are looking at what he's actually doing, and try and stay informed and try and let everybody know, or in your own personal circle, that if these are things that they support or don't support, and if they don't support it, they need to let their elected representatives know. It's about all you can do.
Well, and all politics is local, but the so working at the local, that was, and Karl Rove revolutionized that. But at this point, with the direction Trump is headed in, it really is. The way Brooks said it, he said it in a very Brooksian way, which is he just sort of says things. He said all the rules are different now, and all the old quote weapons that we had, political weapons, none of them are going to work anymore, and it's a whole new set of. And I think he had a point there. He was saying something quite profound, despite just sort of saying it the way he says everything. So I think that was worthwhile. So going back and seeing the beginning, especially with Brooks, and seeing, I hope you guys who have joined us late will go back and see the rest of the show, because I think it's worthwhile. Thank you all again who have liked, subscribed, shared, and again, share this to anybody if you think anybody would be interested in it. It does help us out. And check out the Discord, where you can talk to Commander Zandring, myself, and most of all, Titan, which for some reason is a bigger draw than I am. I haven't figured that out yet, but I get really like we go to other channels, I show up and people are like, who's that? Titan shows up. Titan, yay! It's like, Norm! All right, fine. Thank you all for joining us, and we will possibly, I suspect quite likely, see you again later on this evening as more happens with the Trump administration. But stay on the Discord for that information, and we will see you later tonight. Tomorrow, we have, I nearly forgot. This is why you got to stay to the end of the show, folks, because I always forget things. We do have a couple of interesting programming highlights. Kafir, who you may remember was a former member of the IDF, we're looking to have him back on this week to discuss from Israel what the perception is of the peace deal, including but not limited to specifically members of the far right saying that if Netanyahu does not immediately violate that deal, they will leave the coalition, and he ends up in a huge amount of trouble, probably going to jail. So Kafir, for those of you who remember, member of the IDF that we had on, former member of the IDF who was now fiercely fighting against Israel's occupation of all of its. He described Israel as a chihuahua with rabies biting all of its neighbors. Interesting discussion. So we will have Kafir back on hopefully tomorrow or the next day. We are working with him to discuss that, and I'm hoping to get Commander in on that one as well. We also have for downtime, Viper will be joining us a second time for downtime, as long as Commander here can move that back an hour on Thursday. I think that should be a lot of fun. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you. Look forward may not be the right word. I hope you guys will join us again later tonight when we cover the rest of whatever insanity unfolds. Thank you for joining us.
Look, a black helicopter.
Yeah, whoa. Good night, all.